cognitive and social stimulation within students is of utmost importance. And that is precisely what we try to do at South City International School, where we come forward time and again to host online competitions like elocutions, extempore, and debates. Someone very rightly said, be still when you have nothing to say. When genuine passion moves you, say what you have got say and say it hot. So let the mouth spread what the heart is full of. Therefore, without much ado, I would like to welcome all of you to the South City International School online debate competition. And I would like now the anchors to come forward to introduce our judges and the moderator.
A very good morning to everyone present here. For good ideas and true innovation, you need human interaction, conflict, and debate. Debating is one of the activities that give people a creative room to express what they feel. The length and breadth of knowledge that both debaters and audience gain is simply unparalleled. It is one such art form which primarily aspires to nurture and promote the quantities of cognitive assonance and expression. Debate also tests the quality to convince with conviction and assert with assurance.
Welcome to the annual Inter-House Debate Competition. We have 4 houses: Achievers, Green; Creator, Red; Innovator, Blue; and Philosopher, Yellow. We have 4 categories in this competition. Category A consists of grade 6. Category B comprises of classes 7 and 8. Category C includes classes 9 and 10. And lastly, Category D consists of classes 11 and 12. Before we proceed with the debate, I would like to call upon Divya Musaddi and Ayushi De to introduce the judges and our moderator.
Our first judge for the day is Mr. Barry Philip Antonis, an alumnus of St. Xavier's School and College, Kolkata. Mr. Barry has been in the teaching profession since 1989. He has taught at Don Bosco Park Circus and Calcutta Boys School. He was the senior school coordinator at Sri Sri Academy from November 2018 till December 2020. Currently, Sir is the vice principal of Augustine's Public School. He has co-edited Hughes, a book of prose once taught at the ISC level. Sir is multifaceted. He is a storehouse of traits, skills, and talents. He has expertise in multiple areas and handles them with elan. We welcome you, sir.
Our second judge for the day, Mrs. Sophia Ray, is an English teacher at Welland Goldsmith School for the last 25 years. She has always been in love with the subject English and has found a passion for teaching at a very young age. She enjoys elocution and debate wholeheartedly and has trained children for both throughout the years. We welcome you, ma'am.
Our next judge for the day is Ms. Gargi Roy Chaudhary. Ms. Gargi Roy Chaudhary, a senior teacher of English in GEMS Academia International School, is a highly dedicated, resourceful educator. With an experience of 20 years, she has been associated with different reputed institutions. Besides being an educator, Ms. Roy Chaudhary has also been a part of different workshops and competitions. Her short story was selected and published by the British Council. She has been a resource person of a book published by Sishu Siksha Mission on the curriculum and methods of teaching English in primary school. She also had the privilege to be the judge of the prestigious Frank Anthony debate. We welcome you, ma'am.
Our moderator for the day, Ms. Chitralekha Bhaskar, has an experience of 40 years in the field of education. She has held various administrative positions and was an advisor to Baligan Shiksha Shadan. She was the coordinator and program facilitator of Birla High School, Kolkata. Ma'am has chaired national level debates for schools and colleges at leading competitions all over India. She is an editor, author, and consultant for leading publications. Ma'am is also an educational consultant and counselor. She has conducted Train the Teachers workshop for teachers and the career building sessions for the underprivileged. Ms. Chitralekha Bhaskar is a recipient of several awards, including the prestigious Telegraph School Award for Excellence in Education. We welcome you, ma'am. Now, over to you, Malvika, ma'am.
Thank you, Divya Musaddi and Ayushi Dey. We are indeed proud. It is a proud moment for South City International School to have such distinguished judges and moderators with us. And now I would like to invite our principal, Mr. John Bagul, to address the audience. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Malvika ma'am, for welcoming me, and a warm welcome to our respected moderator ma'am, Mrs. Chitralekha Bhaskar. So nice to see you present here as a moderator. To our judges, Sophia Ray ma'am and Gargi Roy Chaudhary ma'am, along with our third judge, Vice Principal, Mr. Barry Antunes, and students, you're really going to have a wonderful time with this distinguished educationist listening to you speak. I'm sure the judges would have a great time listening to the debate as these young minds bring forth their views to the table, and the topics which have been selected by our English department under the head guidance of Mrs. Malvika Poddar have been so rightly put, and I'm sure the students would be quite articulate in putting forth their views. So I wish each and every student all the very best, and debating is such an important skill, as we all know, especially whether it's offline or online. You need to put your points across so well, also acknowledging points with which you may not agree. And that is the most, you look at your parliament, you look at our people speaking out there, and you wish they had all taken classes in debating, or sometimes you need to just observe it to know what can go wrong if you are not using your parliamentary skills or being very eloquent. So best of luck to each and every one, and I'm sure you will not disappoint our judges. Thank you so much, judges, once again, and moderator ma'am, for being present and gracing the occasion. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Your words never fail to galvanize us and encourage all of us. And I shall now hand over the proceedings to the anchors and our Madam Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would request our Madam Moderator to spell out the rules for today's debate competition.
Thank you very much, Ayushri. And thank you. A very good morning to principal, the judges, the teachers, the dignitaries, and the lovely, adorable children, the students on this very bright and sunny morning. Yes. And thank you for that extremely warm introduction as well. Children, you need to be empowered, and you already are, with the special skill of debating, because debating is a skill that improves or enhances your communicating skills, which is the need of the hour. Look at what's been happening for the past 1.5 years or more now. So it enhances your arguing, debating, refuting, analyzing, and so many things. And I'm so glad that you all are starting so young, class 6, perhaps one of the schools which is introducing debating at class 6, and rightly so. It is so important to enable them to speak, to enable them to argue with dignity, right? And on a topic which is so contemporary. Now, we are going to begin with category A. Now, the rules for category A, my dear students, the time allotted for each speaker is 3 minutes. A warning bell will be rung at the end of 2 minutes and the final bell at the end of 3 minutes. After that, we have a question round or a rebuttal round where one of the members, please raise your hand, students, when you're ready to ask your question. They will be raising their hands and I will just ask that student, either from the proposition or the opposition, to ask the question. Right? After which, of course, in all this process, I have my little friend, Torsha Sanyal, who will be introducing the speaker in the category A. Right? Are you ready, Torsha? Give me a thumbs up if you are. Okay, right. Now, the rules for category B, C, and D remain the same, but however, 3 plus 1 is their allotted time. Total time is 4 minutes. Warning bell at the end of 3 minutes. Final bell at the end of 4 minutes, and a rebuttal round by questions to be asked by the participant from the proposition or the opposition. It's the same. Now, the judging criteria is based on the content, on the argument or the rebuttal, on the appropriateness of language, delivery, demeanor, or poise. Right? Ayushri, I can see you right in front of me. What do you understand by demeanor or poise? Ayushri? Ayushri. Demeanor or poise? Yeah, and Ayushri? No problem if you know. What is demeanor or poise? Who can say? Anybody who can raise the hand and tell me? Yes? All right, the way you speak, the way your body language is important to know, right? It's just important. It doesn't matter. You're here to learn. We are all here to learn and teach, right? So the way you behave, the way you talk, your body language, right? The language, how you are speaking, all that. That's what it means. So you can learn that. And the style and the panache with which you speak. Right, so total is 50 points. Of course, we are here, debating is all about rebutting, and a moderate amount of rebutting is of course allowed, and that's what debating is all about. And well, I don't know whether I should use unparliamentary.
Ma'am, you're muted.
Speaking on mute, muted yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, you have muted yourself.
Ma'am, you have muted yourself.
Ma'am, you have muted yourself. Chitralekha, ma'am, excuse me, you're on mute.
Ma'am, we're not able to hear you.
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, it's fine now.
It's fine.
I don't know whether you heard. Did you hear the judging criteria, children?
No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Then I'll have to repeat it. Well, the judging criteria is based on the content, the argument and the rebuttal, the appropriateness of language, delivery, and demeanor or poise. And I was just asking somebody who could tell me the meaning of demeanor or poise. Right?
In the manner of way you speak.
Yeah,
It's the body
absolutely.
language.
Absolutely. Thank you. Right. The manner in which you speak, your style, the way you're speaking, your body language, right? All that is important. Of course, rebutting is one of the very important aspects of debating, and debating is actually the highest purpose of education, right? So it develops your critical and creative thinking as well. So in the opinion of the House, as the motion reads today, it is social media creates unrealistic expectations, right? That is for class 6, category A. And we look forward to a debate on the social media, whether it's a boon or a bane in today's world. And I'm sure we can hear diverse opinions will emerge, navigating the particular and the universal, the social and the individual. And on that note, I would like to call upon from Achiever House, Angist Ganguly, who is going to speak for the motion. For the motion, Angist Ganguly of 6A.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, honorable judges, principal sir, madam moderator, teachers, and my dear friends. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in this debate on the topic Social Media Creates Unrealistic Expectations. I'm Anjish Ganguly from Class 6A Achiever House, and today I stand for the motion. Let me start by quoting Miss Felicia, a famous blogger, as don't use social media to impress people. Use it to impact them. Social media has become one of the most popular sources of communication for the upcoming generation. Nowadays, we have come across a new terminology called netizens, which are nothing but the citizens of the internet who live, eat, and sleep in the world of social media. In the present scenario, where people have hardly any time to spend with each other, a sense of loneliness and depression tends to develop, especially amongst the kids and teens, as they live, eat, and sleep in social media. They try to find a solution there. It is some kind of intoxication. Spending more time on social media keeps people away from the realities of life, resulting in delusion and unrealistic expectations. Nowadays, people are getting trapped regularly by comparing themselves with others as they scroll through social media. They constantly make judgments in comparison with others and feel depressed. It is quite natural that this comparison with others also can generate a feeling of unhappiness, dissatisfaction, and even jealousy, which results in posting some envy inducing messages to show his or her life better than others. We know all that glitters are not gold, means what is shown on social media may be fake and farce. We may not know that the person who looks so great on social media may be actually suffering a lot in real life. That's why he or she must be desperately seeking attention and validation from the virtual world. It creates harmful circumstances and influences them to take extreme measures, like ending one's life. We are human and therefore not perfect. Social media brings to us just the selected best parts of others' lives, which seem to be perfect as per the so called society standards. I would like to conclude by quoting Shakespeare, who once said, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. I am not saying social media is bad, but when we allow it to control our lives, we make it so. Hence, we should just be ourselves and surround ourselves with the real world so that there will be no stress, no depression, no humiliation, no loneliness, and no disappointment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angesh. You very well put forth the point that social media should be used to impact and not to impress. I like that point very much. And you believe that it is an intoxicant. It intoxicates. All right. To ask a question to Angesh, Torsha, can you help me out? Can you, Torsha? Yeah, who's asking the question to Angesh, the rebuttal question?
Ma'am, I've not been told that.
All right, that doesn't matter, but I need to see the, who are the children who are raising their hands? I need a raise of hands to point out, to
raise
find
your
out.
hands so that our moderator can see who wishes to speak and ask questions.
Yes, please raise your hands. Right? I can't see any show of hands. Yes, Navami?
Yes, ma'am.
Navami, would you please ask a question to Angesh?
Yes, ma'am. So my question to you is that during these unprecedented moments, and especially when we are in lockdown during these COVID times, social media has been of great help. What is your take on that?
Thank you, opponent, for your question. I will try my best to answer it. Yes, in this corona times, social media has helped us. But in my speech, I have mentioned that there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. When people compare themselves with others and feel depressed, that is very bad. I don't support that. And sometimes these days people overuse it and feel depressed. And feel very ungrateful. I don't support that at all. I hope I could answer your question.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angesh. That was answered with firm conviction indeed. And thank you very much. And now to go against
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Will Torsha please announce who's the next speaker? Torsha?
Our next participant from Achiever House is Ashmita Datta, and she is going against the motion.
A very good morning to our esteemed judges, Madam Moderator, Principal, teachers, and my dear friends. I am Ashmita Datta from Class 6A of the Achiever House, and today I will be speaking against the topic Social Media Creates Unrealistic Expectations. So, to dig deeper into this topic, we first must understand what social media means and what unrealistic expectations are. I think we all know that social media refers to websites and applications that enable users to communicate with their friends and family. Now, coming to unrealistic expectations, they are nothing but posts in different groups and social channels on the social media which are not true and cannot be achieved by any means in real life. Now, just imagine you wake up one morning to see that the social media is not working. There is no WhatsApp, Instagram, or Facebook for you to use. It's all blank. Won't you be horrified? Well, that's no surprise. For standing today, participation in the social media is not a privilege, but a mandate. There are so many pros to the social media that it would take me ages to list all of them. Here are a few. Faster communication between individuals, no face-to-face interactions during these COVID times. People can know of any international news. Job seekers can find job applications easily. And of course, business is growing worldwide due to the social media only. Now, social media also influence our everyday life in a positive way. Social media influencers post workout routines and meal plans on the social media, which encourages their audience to try out something new while sitting at home to maintain their physical fitness and mental health. Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp users create communities that provide support and help to those in need. Now, coming back to unrealistic expectations, they spread very little. For group chats are usually audited, moderated, and the inappropriate information is even deleted by the admins if required. Besides, we are human beings with the ability to judge and use our thinking power. Why won't we look at something twice and understand it before implementing it on our everyday life? So why are we blaming social media, which is merely a creation of ours, when the real power lies in our hands? After looking at all the pros of the social media, I think it is more of a blessing and less of a curse. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashmita. Ashmita has very well analyzed the topic and broken up into parts and told you the impact or the, the meanings of the different parts of the topic. And that is a very, very, analytical indeed. And she's also highlighted the importance on how the social media builds a community, and it is a blessing rather than a curse. Thank you, Ashmita. Can I have a raise of hands for the question to Ashmita, please? Raise of hands for the question to Ashmita. Devarsh Bhatia. Yes, Devarsh?
Yes, Snapchat dysmorphia is on the rise. Is the benefit of connection that social media has worth this way of living?
My dear opponent, I did not understand your question.
Devarsh, speak a little slower and clearly. Devarsh, once more.
Yes, Snapchat dysmorphia is on the rise. Is the benefit of connection that social media has worth this way of living?
Yes, Ashmita.
Thank you, my dear opponent, for your question. I will try my best to answer it. I think social media impacts our life in more than one way. It helps us create communities. It helps us to interact with our friends and family, especially during these COVID times. Ashmita, you're muted.
Ashmita, you're muted.
Speaking on mute.
Okay. I'll start again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you, my dear opponent, for your question. I'll try my best to answer it. First of all, social media impacts our life in more than one way. It helps us to create communities and to bond with people all over the world. Without it, how can you even imagine life? I think it helps us in so many ways. It gives us information about what is happening. It helps us to find friends even during these COVID times. And I think it is the best, it is the only way we can manage our life during this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashmita. And now to carry on with the debate, member of the proposition, Roopsa Bhattacharya, can Torsha please introduce her?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Anjast. Thank you, Ashmita. The next participant from Creator House is Roopsa Bhattacharya, and she is going for the motion.
Thank you. Good morning, Principal Sir, judges, moderators, and my fellow debaters. I am Roopsa Bhattacharya from Class 6A, Creator House, and today I'm speaking for the motion, social media creates unrealistic expectations. Social media. It's a topic very relevant for our generation. We are growing up with Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. as a norm since our childhood. Facebook likes and followers measure our popularity amongst friends and peers. Photo-enhancing apps and social media influencers are now reality, even for teenagers and preteens. Social media is an amazing tool that helps us to make new friends from diverse backgrounds. It lets us expand our thoughts and express our opinions. It makes it possible to be in touch with our friends and relatives, lets people help each other during the pandemic, and so much more. Then, where do the unrealistic expectations come from? It comes from what is put on our social media feed, where we are bombarded by perfect selfies, Instagram-worthy vacation pictures, and the unreal figures of celebrities and influencers at the gym. When we are made to look at other people's aesthetic lifestyle, ours will always appear less than perfect. I am here to point out that if Facebook highlights the post of other young people who got thousands of followers and recommends TED Talks of a 12-year-old on my feed, then it is really, really hard not to be bothered by that. If the adults are fooled by enhanced images and advertisements disguised as inspiring life stories, then how can I not be? If the teen influencers on Instagram post photoshopped images of themselves, is it not natural that many of their followers would see their own image as imperfect? However, it is on us to decide what is real and what is unreal, and that it is all right to be a little less than perfect. It is wonderful to be liked by our friends, but it's fine even if we don't have thousands of likes on our Facebook post or images. It's true that we create expectations for ourselves, but all the resources and advanced technology of social media platforms are designed to make those expectations ever so higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Roopsa. Roopsa highlighted the point that she says social media is an amazing tool, and an animated speech there by Roopsa. Now to ask Roopsa a question, can I have children raise their hands, please? Yes, I need to have a show of hands so that you can ask question to Roopsa. Yes. Yes, children.
Anshuman Kedia. I think Anshuman has raised his hand.
Right, Anshuman, can you ask?
Yes, ma'am.
Roopsa, yes.
40% of people around the world are employed by social media. What alternative will you provide to prevent their livelihood from getting uprooted?
Thank you for your question, my fellow debater. I think that ethical social media is the need of the hour. I think advertisement should be marked as ads, and altered images should be watermarked. We should have a right to our privacy where we are not going to be bombarded by what artificial intelligence of social media would recommend us to see. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much, Rupsa.
Right. Thank you for your answer, Rupsa. Well thought of answer. And now to counter-argue what Rupsa said, I'd like to invite Torsha to introduce the next speaker.
To follow it up, we have Kanishk Pardya from Creator House, and he is going to speak against the motion.
Good morning, teachers, judges, Madam Moderator, and my fellow debaters. My name is Kanish Bardia. I'm from Class 6B, Creator House. The topic for today's debate is social media creates unrealistic expectations, and I'm speaking against the motion. Before we begin, let us understand what is social media. Social media is an interactive technology which allows the creation and sharing or exchange of information via virtual network. As the definition suggests, it helps us in the exchange of ideas and information. And the basis of the debate is absolutely wrong when it states that social media creates unrealistic expectations. It helps us to exchange information, contact our near ones in this pandemic. It is a thing which is helping us keep in touch with people far away and spread the awareness. This disease would have been way more deadlier if the awareness would not have been spread so quickly. It helps us open our mind and widen our thoughts. I would like to give example of a recent incident. In Olympics, our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, inspired the Olympians with an Instagram post. I don't suppose that creates unrealistic expectations. It helps us to send messages quickly all over the world to our near people. It helps us relax after a stressful day. We should not only look at the success of people from their posts, but also the hard work behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanish. Kanish certainly believes that social media is an extremely realistic media, and he even cited examples from the Olympics and our Honorable Prime Minister. It allows interaction and sharing and holds social media in very high esteem. Question for Kanish. Question for Kanish. Yes? Question for Kanishk.
Devansh Bhatia has raised his hand.
Yes, Devansh. Devansh already had a chance, but does it, Devansh, right? Okay, yes, Devansh.
Social media creates unrealistic expectations. We are getting influenced and prejudiced. Don't you think so?
Thanks for the question, my dear opponent. But I think if we see the post as pressure that we are not the best, we should think as we should not be like them, but better than them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the question, and thank you, Kanish, for your very thought out answer. And now a member from the proposition, and to introduce the speaker, Tosha, over to you.
Thank you, Ruksha. Thank you, Kanish. We have Devash Bhatia from Innovator House, who will speak for the motion.
Flawless faces, sugary moments, borrowed wisdom, a world of false reality. Social media has become a source of validation for its users. Make sure you're happy in real life, not just on social media. A very good morning to one and all. I'm Devash Bhatia from the Innovator House, and I stand for the motion that social media creates unrealistic expectations. With an estimated 3.7 billion users worldwide, social media is a large part of today's culture. Even though it's meant to promote connection, multiple studies have linked social media with loneliness, mood disorders, and poor self-esteem. The line between reality and aesthetic fiction is becoming dangerously blurry or disappearing altogether. The impact of social media is twofold. Firstly, it creates a false and distorted lens through which users view the world, others, and themselves. For example, the edited images on Instagram show people and their things in the best light. Also, there's a rise in getting plastic surgery to copy the effects of filters. This is known as Snapchat dysmorphia, a term given by researchers from Boston. Secondly, when you spend more time online, you have a fewer real life interactions. Fake friends are not people whom you cannot trust, but the friends that you have on Facebook and do not actually see in real life. We compare our lives with the lives of celebrities we follow. We think we know them well, but do we realize that they have an entire squad and a social media team to make them appear so perfect? Young people in particular spend several hours a day on social media. This has increased during the lockdowns. They treat what they see as real. Studies have shown that this can have dangerous effects on one's personality instead of learning to accept and appreciate what we have. We are feeling disappointed and depressed. Is the benefit of connection worth insecurities and negative self-evaluation? I conclude by saying that the combination of a false presentation of a perfect life with the behavior of comparing yourself to others is a formula of detrimental damage. So next time you scroll, think twice about what you believe. Thank you.
Right, a spirited speech by Devarsh there, who started off with literary parallels to social media and homework well done, a good survey on the, on the social media and how it is so unrealistic. And he's done his homework well. Now to ask a question, to thank you, Devarsh, but who's going to be asking the question to Devarsh? Yes? I can't see your hands, children, either, I just put it in front of the camera, so that I can
Asmita Datta, I think.
Yeah.
Ma'am, Asmita Datta has raised her hand.
Asmita. Yes, Asmita, go ahead with your question.
Opponent, you spoke of a lot of the faults of the social media, but how do you think life would have continued without the social media, especially in these times of COVID?
Yes, thank you for the question. Being constantly bombarded by positivity and images of people whom seem to be having time of their lives can have negative effects on people viewing these images daily. Distorted and edited perceptions of reality are uploaded. When viewing someone else's curated life online, it's easy to believe that their life is better. In this day and age, Instagram creates unrealistic expectations for the society. Thank you.
Thank you both, Asmita, for the question, and Devarsh for such an appropriate answer to give your views in the way you did. And Tosha, you're over to you.
Now we have Anshuman Kedia from Innovator House, who will speak against the motion.
Good morning to everyone. Today, I, Anshuman Kedia, shall speak against the motion which reads, social media creates unrealistic expectations. Social media has gained immense popularity in the recent years because of its user-friendly features. Applications like WhatsApp and Twitter have given a boost to freedom of expression by allowing individuals to share photos and videos. However, something so powerful and with such a massive reach is bound to make us wonder. It cannot be all good. The way there are always two sides to a coin. The same goes for social media. Now, some people might say that apps like Snapchat promote the use of filters and editing tools which create expectations of scar-free skin. As it is a debatable topic, looking at it from a much better perspective, you will notice that these innovations boost confidence among youngsters or inspire others to achieve a certain weight goal. In my opinion, remedies and solutions available on YouTube for black circles or acne do not give in to false promises, but give people cures for their problems at the mere click of a finger. Many recent social media revolutions have triggered big changes in the world, starting from the infamous Black Lives Matter to breaking the stigma of mental health. Social media has allowed people across the world to raise their voices from the comfort of their homes. Feminist pages have instilled power among young women to come forward and claim their rights, escaping exploitation and harassment. Many small business owners who fear large investments or do not have the funds for the same are now trying to pursue their goals by way of Facebook and Instagram. A person's freedom to speech also leads to other people posting their views and opinions on matter pertaining to a large group, such as a political or a social issue. These in return help people to navigate the workout of politicians and make an informed choice. Apart from all the points I've mentioned, the most basic and the chief purpose of all these platforms is assisting in helping people stay connected through video calling or messaging apps. This has a great impact on maintaining healthy relationships. Hence, I believe that the benefits of social media far rule out the unrealistic expectations that are created. As it is often said, something good always comes out of something bad. This everything in life should be balanced for us to be able to see the positive and differentiate it from the negative. Thank you.
Thank you. A rather passionate speech by Anshuman, very forcefully put. He's given a fresh insight into the subject, and he says social media is schizophrenic, right? The schizophrenic effect of social media. And let's find out what is the question for Anshuman. Yes. Who's got?
Anjist Ganguly has raised his virtual hand, ma'am.
Right, okay.
Anjist Ganguly.
Anjist.
Nowadays survey says that social media has negative impact on the young generation. So how would you explain that?
Everything has certain positive and negative aspects. The same goes for social media. If anything is violent shown in Instagram, Facebook, then it first shows a disclaimer showing that the following content is explicit. And you can always complain it to and report it to the cyber police. And every issue that forms up on social media dissolves on social media itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that smart answer, Anshuman. Very well put there. And Angish, you're happy with that answer? Show me a thumbs up. Are you happy with that answer? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. And now it's over to Torsha for the next speaker.
Thank you, Devash. Thank you, Anshuman. Now we have Divyansha Junjunwala from Philosopher House, who is going to speak for the motion.
Social media shows us a very unrealistic face of everything. It makes you feel that you have thousands of friends when in reality, you don't. A very good morning to one and all present here. I'm Divyansha Junjunwala of Class 6D, and for the topic, Social Media Creates Unrealistic Expectations, I stand for the motion. Today, social media is detrimental to the lives of people, especially during the pandemic when most of the people are unconsciously drawn towards it. Nowadays, social media is a lifestyle. After waking up, while eating a meal, and even before we sleep. Today, our youth is mostly on social media platforms like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, etc. Glamour and glitter are negatively impacting their lives, and their academic life has taken a backseat. According to a recent study, depression and anxiety in a teenager may be caused due to social media. Interaction of the children with their parents is now limited. Continuous use of screen and social media releases an enzyme known as dopamine, which makes people more restless. FOMO, fear of missing out, cyberbullying are all the evil byproducts of social media. Children are vulnerable to online gaming sites that this has taken a toll on their lives. Rumor has it, around 130 children lost their lives due to online gaming sites. The young Gen X influencers think that this is the best career and are neglecting studies. Why should I go far today? Let me share something about myself. Last year, due to COVID, when we all were indoors, I got addicted to social media. My parents noticed a change in my behavior that I got arguable. My parents consulted my class teacher, and her advice was to cut on my screen time. I did as advised, but for a few days I did not like it. Later, I realized that it was actually not correct for my age. Selena Gomez, a well-known singer, discourages the use of Instagram as she thinks that she was addicted to it and got into depression. Daniel Radcliffe, the protagonist of the well-known series Harry Potter, too refrains himself from using social media as he likes to keep his life private. This is just to name a few. A simple backlash against something you post that is a negative social media content can destroy trust in your brand in a matter of few seconds. To name one, a hotel in Inverness was shut down due to a one-liner negative comment by a customer. Women compare their appearance by other models and feel bad about how they look. As said, they think that the grass is always greener on the other side. They are spending in showbiz and are spoiling their relationships. Thus, to conclude, I would like to say, if you're not tweeting, you're Snapchatting. If you're not Snapchatting, you're Instagramming. When are you in reality? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Divyankshi. Divyankshi points out the negative impact caused by the glamour and glitter of the social media, and which is actually reducing face-to-face interaction and actually giving rise to addiction to social media. Now, let us see what question awaits her and who's going to be asking that question. Yes?
Ma'am, I would like to question.
Ma'am, there are three students, Ashmita Datta, Kanishk Bardia, and Anshuman Kedia. Three students have raised their virtual hands.
Right. So I think, Ashmita, you've already asked a question. All three of you have asked a question, right? Okay. So, Anshuman.
Okay, ma'am. Many people's stories of overcoming depression and anxiety inspires others to escape suicidal thoughts. What are your comments on that?
Thank you for your question, fellow debater, and I hope the best to answer your question. Every person is different. The views are different of each person. Now, a person may take social media as their recreation after a stressful day, but many people think particularly, and they feel that social media is impacting their life and they are becoming an addict. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Divya.
Thank you for the answer.
I also have a question, my fellow debater.
But there's only one question per speaker, my dear. So maybe you can ask the question to the last speaker. All right, if you're ready with it. Thank you very much. All right. Tosha, your turn.
Yes, ma'am. Our last speaker in this category is Navmi Damani from Philosopher House. She will go against the motion.
It reveals you. It exposes you. It helps you. It relieves you. Available at a click. Remains with you from dawn to dusk. It is social media. A very good morning to one and all present here. My name is Navmi Damani. I stand against the motion and claim that social media does not create unrealistic expectations. Social media is a wide networking framework with varied activities that are covered under its orbit. The idea of social media goes above and beyond the notions of beauty, fashion, and health. Social media has become a preferred platform for major news outlets to deliver factual information in real time and simultaneously reach a greater audience. Social media platforms are used by people of different age groups and social strats to communicate their daily needs, receive and extend help, and thereby build communities. This is the way they find support, which otherwise would be unavailable. Let us take up the key aspect of this motion, which is expectations. The concept of expectations is subjective and personal. Social media gives us an array of options how to use it for our best, but leaves the ultimate decision onto us. For instance, the Me Too campaign used social media and provided a source of solidarity for women. For instance, social media is a platform for many body positive influencers like Neha Parolkar, Alok Ved Menon, and so on, who have proven that it is okay not to be perfect, as actually nobody is perfect. We all have different perceptions, and our perceptions lead to our expectations. Positive perceptions lead to positive expectations, and social media is nothing but a game of perception. To end my speech, I would like to conclude and affirm a quote by Susan Cooper. Engage, enlighten, encourage, and especially just be yourself. Social media is a community effort where everyone is an asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Navami has, adapted the oratorical style of speaking, forcefully put forward her points, and it is about beauty, fashion, and health, she shares, and she has also highlighted the expectation and the perceptions of social media creating a community. Thank you, Navami, for your oratorical speech. Question for Navami. And yes.
And we have Rupsa Bhattacharjee.
Yes, Rupsa. Yes, Rupsa.
Indeed, social media is an amazing tool. But how do you think social media expectations can be realistically managed?
Well, thank you for your question. According to my opinion, social media is a game of perception, and it's just the way to perceive. Our expectations are made by our perceptions. If we perceive positively, we expect positive. I hope this answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful answer, my fellow debater.
Right. Thank you, Navmi. Yes, that is positivity and expectation both dependent on each other. Right? So it is now, we've just finished. Amazing. I cannot believe, I cannot imagine that you're all from class 6. Right? I mean, a very, very good style of speaking there, and very, very good. And before I sum up the debate, I think the anchor has to say something, and then I shall do the summing up.
Thank you, Divyansha. Thank you, Navmi. With this, we come to the end of category A.
Okay, are you not going to be asking the judges? Not now. Torsha? Okay, so let me then sum up the debate. The question is, as mentioned by the speakers, social media has created a new way of communication, especially ever since the pandemic started, right? Ever since that. And the entire world has been affected by it. And the other day, like somebody told me, I love the computer now because my friends live inside the computer. Right? So that's, how people are taking it now. And there is always, firstly, social media, as mentioned by some of you, is a source of distraction. And sometimes a distraction is just what one might need. right? But it might sometimes create a distraction from what we are supposed to do wherever we are, be it in our workplace or in school, right? It is not, but like in all debates, it is social networking that actually affects us. The phenomenon of social media is like a coin with two sides. It has both negative as well as positive aspects. Like the other day, I was reading a quote, right? Facebook asks me, what's on your mind? Twitter asks, what's going on? LinkedIn wants me to reconnect with my colleagues, and YouTube tells me what to watch. Social media is a reality show or a big brother. My dear friends, it's probably mother nowadays, right? So many cogent arguments have been put forth in favor and against the proposition, and it brings, social media undoubtedly brings happiness and togetherness, but this is not unmixed with its side effects causing sorrow to many, right? So on that note, I would like to end, but I would definitely like you to think, students, whether you are for the motion or against the motion. And I would like to base your judgment on the arguments that were made today by the speakers and not on your preconceived notions, because that's what debating is all about. And once again, I would like to congratulate every speaker present here, all the children who asked those wonderful questions. Right? Thank you so much.
With this, we come to the end of category A, and I request Shaurya to continue with category B.
Thank you, Tosha. The first participant from category B is Arjun Sarkar from Achiever House. He is going to speak for the motion.
In our day and age, social media is a place where just about everyone is involved, and it has really become a molding factor of us as individuals. However, social media is not at all like the real world, and this may probably be why so many of us are unconsciously addicted to it. A very good morning to one and all present here. My name is Arjun Sarkar, and I shall represent Achiever House from Class 8A. Today I shall be speaking in support of the motion, that is, social media creates unrealistic expectations. Now, to understand how social media creates these unrealistic expectations in individuals, we must first understand why it would aim to do so. Social media developers will try their level best to persuade people to start using their software and to also prevent their existing users from stopping. And what better way to do this than to portray somewhat of a utopia where everyone is respected? Why do you think social media is so addictive? Well, as rightfully said by author of the book, The Social Media Mind, David Amelin, and I quote, social media is addictive precisely because it gives us something which the real world lacks. It gives us immediacy, direction, and value as an individual. Even though this may not always stand true, as many I am sure will try to point out, I would like to say that I believe that everyone has found some level of respect and understanding from these platforms, and that is why they continue to use it, don't they? False expectations and ideas come in various forms, and I myself have personally seen what they, maybe or maybe not because of our current virtual situation, have done to so many of my schoolmates who would rather click away in a public platform, mind you, than actually get up in a crowd and speak. Public speaking, as well as speaking skills in general, are so very crucial in our lives. And that is something that this very competition proves and tries to inculcate in us. Social media shorthand languages like the emoticons or emojis, acronyms of random day-to-day words, and so on and so forth have taken over the world. And these do nothing for our worldly skills. As you see, we cannot use them whilst writing formal documents or even in conversation. But by force of habit, we do so at times. On looking at another aspect of this, we see that fake news that have been posted on these platforms can act as triggers for totally unnecessary tension and bitterness between the various castes, creeds, and social communities present on those platforms. It is actually proven to be such a grave issue that social media platforms and applications like WhatsApp, for example, have had to tighten up their measures in aims of stopping it. Another thing that breeds falseness and depression, even though it may not have been intended to do so, are those picture perfect posts you see, which even if fake, people get jealous and upset over. A study that was conducted by the Macquarie University and the University of New South Wales that focused specifically on the effects of Instagram and monitored 350 American and Australian women said that even 30 minutes on the app can make women fixate negatively on their weight and physical appearance, which can lead to self-hatred and even suicidal thoughts. I would like to conclude by stating that we must never forget to acknowledge the fact that social media is very important in our day-to-day lives. But as I have said time and time again to so many different people, everything is good as long as it is used in moderation. And even something as useful as social media can become harmful for an individual if it is used continuously for a prolonged period of time, and if one is unable to select their group of friends on those platforms properly. As rightfully said by famous American businessman John Willard Marriott, choose your friends wisely. They will make or break you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Arju. A rather motivating speech by Arju there. And he says that social media gives something which the real world lacks, right? Now, the harmful effects of social media put there, unnecessary tension, it creates he highlighted the ill effects. I wonder how much of social media you use, Arju, but we'll have a talk about that later. And now, question for Arju. Can I have the show of hands?
Ma'am, Kushan Roy has raised his hand.
Kushan, yes. So Kushan, your question, please.
My worthy opponent, the speech was lovely. But today, if you become a very prominent figure in the world of social media, would you state it as unrealistic? Would you say that it still raises unrealistic expectations?
Thank you for the lovely question, my fellow speaker. And to answer your question, I would say that yes, of course. Why would I not stick to what I am saying? That would make me a hypocrite. Even if I become a very prominent figure of the social media platforms, for example, I would continuously stick to what I believe. Because what I believe, and I think I know, is what I believe is right. And that is why I will never move away from it.
Right. Thank you for that convincing answer. Thank you for the question, Kushan, and for the wonderful answer. And now we have a member of the opposition who is going to counter-argue what Arju said. And to introduce him, can I call upon Shaurya Kanvatia.
Our next participant from Achiever House is Arjun Thomas. He will go against the motion.
Social media has been a platform used for many movements, especially in the last year, creating a huge positive impact on society as we know today. A very good morning. I, Arjun Thomas, will be speaking against the motion that social media creates unrealistic expectations. Firstly, I would like to reflect on the topic. It states that the forum creates unrealistic expectations. How can it do so when it is basically a copy of the real world? Due to the implications of the pandemic, social media usage has significantly increased. The proposition recently argued that social media users often use false and doctored images using filters, which does not happen in reality. I would question the proposition as to how they can overlook the use of makeup in our world while doing so. Filter users on social media will be a majority of makeup users in reality. This further proves that the platform is not at fault. While some people reflect on the platform as a source of recreation and time pass, it was developed as a means of communication and has fulfilled that purpose and has further acted as a source of inspiration for many today. It is seen that social media is just an open forum with people from across the world. The leading figures on social media are people who are successful in their respective fields. So should inspiration be reprimanded? Earth is not a place, it is a people. Let's look at this from a large scale, reflecting in what I said about social media being a copy of the real world. The world is a set of people on a planet. Take that same set of people and put them on a different platform, say social media. They will still have the same personalities. This is why we can't blame the platform for creating unrealistic expectations. Many people fail to acknowledge that messaging apps like WhatsApp, which has 2.5 billion downloads, fall under the jurisdiction of social media. And these people often only count open forum apps like Instagram and Twitter. While it is already a stretch to say that a partially open forum app like Instagram creates unrealistic expectations, it is even more so to say that a messaging app like WhatsApp does. In the end, everyone has their expectations of themselves. While they could be influenced by social media, ultimately an expectation is what you believe you can achieve. Platforms like social media have algorithms to put you in contact with people who you might know or who have similar agendas and beliefs with you. This is why you can't blame the platform. Your actions lead to a correlated reaction, meaning that your recommendations on such forums are directly influenced by factors like your browser activity. This further backs the fact that social media is not at blame for unrealistic expectations. People who have high expectations of themselves will try to follow a path to reach their goals. Even if someone aims for a certain goal in life and misses, they would have still reached a certain stage of success. How is improving someone's standard of living not in the proposition's best interest? We see groups like Fridays for Future, Greenpeace, and even movements started by students in our own school, such as Voicing Youth, an organization that raises funds and resources for the education of the underprivileged. Voicing Youth can be considered an organization which was formed resultant to the inspiration of these mentioned larger social media groups. Social media is not just a part of our society today, but it is a pillar of our community, a beacon of hope, proving there's light on the other side of the darkness faced due to the pandemic. It is silly to accuse a platform, social media, of creating unrealistic expectations when it holds together much of our society today. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Arjun. Arjun has been very reflective throughout his speech, and he's thought about it deeply, relate social media and how it has, kind of dominated us more so since the pandemic has set in. Don't blame platforms for creating unrealistic conditions or expectations, he says, and it is the beacon of hope, according to him, right? Thank you, Arjun. And question for Arjun, please. Yes? Show of hands.
Sahana Govind.
Yes, ma'am?
Sahana Govind.
Sahana, yes, Sahana, your question, please.
I really liked your speech, Arjun. But if social media is so realistic, why is there a term called catfishing? What is your take on it?
Thank you for the question. So catfishing is basically a deceptive activity where people take on false personas, reflecting like it. It was based on a certain cat, I believe, some catfish. So, anyways, it also reflects on the real world where people often mask their true identities. In the last year, we have seen that Bill Gates and many of many people look up to him in prior years. But now we've seen that even people with that many people can hide their real identities, and personas are just relative to your public image, which may not always be true.
Right, that was well answered, Arjun, and thank you for your question, Sahana. And to introduce the next speaker, it's over to Shaurya.
Thank you, Arjun. We have from Creator House, Nayanika Bhattacharjee. She will speak for the motion.
So, ma'am, I begin?
Yes, Nayanika, waiting for you. Nayanika, are you there? Hello? Nainika?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. That was some network connectivity issues. Can I begin?
Yes, you can begin, Nainika.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. A very good morning to one and all present here. I am Nayonika Bhattacharjee of Class 8C, and I'll be speaking for the motion that social media creates unrealistic expectations. With the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, I can say that most of us spend the majority of our day scrolling through social media. What we don't usually realize is that most of the posts which we see have been altered to a great extent. And so we subconsciously start judging our lives, therefore welcoming unrealistic expectations to our world. These expectations can happen in so many ways. Mostly so when we look towards others for self-validation, make assumptions, or most importantly, when we want to impose our own belief systems into others and return disappointed when they don't act the way as we think they should. This problem is sometimes in gargantuan proportions in social media. In today's culture, it has begun to dominate even more of our lives, with an estimated of 3.6 billion users worldwide, and its influence can quickly turn negative. It builds unrealistic expectations of our day-to-day life.
I think Noinika is having an internet issue there. Can we move to the speaker against the motion?
Yes.
And when Noinika gets her connection back, maybe we can revert back to her. Okay. So Shaurya, you could Nishink Dey. I think you can just talk about him. Yeah.
To follow it up, we have Nishang De from Creator House, who will speak against the motion.
Creativity doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It fashions its own perfect moments out of the ordinary ones. By Bruce Garambrandt. Good morning. I'm Nishang De of Creator House Class 7B. Today I'll be speaking against the motion on the topic, social media creates unrealistic expectations. No, it doesn't. It rather creates a platform for us to exercise and broaden our creativity. For example, there are numerous drawing and coloring tutorials on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube that helps us enhance our drawing and coloring skills. Isn't that a realistic, practical requirement for our school projects? If there are any singers in this august gathering, you will note that there is an app called Sur Sadhak that emits the realistic sound of tabla and tanpura, and is an extremely pertinent app in practicing dance and rags in times of social distancing. There are other apps that teaches us real-life hacks. For example, the 5-minute craft videos on YouTube. Right from easy fixes for torn clothes to recycling of home waste, 5 minutes craft offers realistic, quick fixes to many practical challenges that we face in our day-to-day activities. Corona has restricted many of us from undertaking sports activities. Gone are the days of exciting chess competitions at Khudiram or Netaji Stadium. However, apps like chess.com and Lichess have created game rooms, practical training classes, and competition that gives no less a feeler than what it was of facing a day-to-day game of chess. Are you facing a practical challenge of training a dog? Look no further and click on the YouTube. You will have tons of videos by Cesar Milan or Victoria Stilwell giving you tips on how to train your dogs on obeying your commands. Innumerable news apps on social media gives us 24/7 live update on various events that have happened in the world around us. Events that impact the world and our lives, help our government or help us in undertaking better, quicker, and informed decisions. Now, you may argue that children tend to spend way too much time on the media, and I agree. And that is why there are parents who are to monitor this and not let it get out of hand. Most operating systems in phones, tabs, and computers have parental controls. Exercising these controls are extremely critical in keeping a child in check to ensure that they do not use gaming beauty or other apps that create an unrealistic expectation. I therefore rest my case with a famous quote from John C. Maxwell that says, "Life is a matter of choices, and every choice you make makes you." Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nishant. Very firm in his opinion. He firmly believes that it develops creativity, be it in music, be it in games, be it any other platform, and you can get 24/7 live updates and very comfortably. If the children are getting addicted to, to the media, it's parental control. So parents can be blamed for it and not children. Right? Okay. So question for
Ma'am, I was facing some internet issues, so can I
Nanika, don't worry about it at all. I'll give you the next chance. Okay? I'll give you the next. So don't worry. I know we're all having to, face the nitty-gritties of technology. So that's okay. It happens. Yes. Question for Nishank.
Arjun Sarkar has her hand raised. Arjun Sarkar.
Yes, Arjun Sarkar
has his hand raised.
Right.
Thank you, respected moderator, for recognizing me. Nishank, before I ask my question, I would like to say that I really liked your speech, and I believe that it held some very important points. But one fact that I would like to mention was that, I'd like to ask rather, is that isn't clickbait a form of false expectation in itself, which is really quite an issue when you look at the current form of YouTube and the videos that are present there. Like you mentioned 5-minute crafts, for example, which has drawn quite a bit of criticism due to its reliance of use on clickbait. Now, how would you
Thank you, Arju. I really like that you like my speech. I'll try my best to answer your question for sure. Now, I think you said 5 minutes craft giving unrealistic expectation, if I'm not mistaken, by using softwares. Now, if you break this all down, then don't you think that it's possible, but it just requires a bit of practice? Like they have just edited it to make a short video, because you can't do something of 40 minutes, then no one will watch the video. So now they have to edit it to make it shorter, but it's possible to do it. That's how the people on 5 minutes craft are doing, are making videos like this.
Right. Thank you for that insightful answer, Nishan. Beautifully put there. And now, if I may go back to Noyanika, who's going to be speaking for the motion. Noyanika, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Noyanika.
A very good morning to one and all. I am Nayonika Bhattacharjee of Class 8C, and I'll be speaking for the motion that social media creates unrealistic expectations. With the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, I can say that most of us spend the majority of our time endlessly scrolling through social media. But what we don't realize is that we mostly come across posts which have been altered to a great extent, and so we subconsciously start judging our lives, therefore welcoming unrealistic expectations into our world. These expectations can happen in so many ways, mostly so as when we look towards others for self-validations, make assumptions, or most importantly, when we try to impose our own belief system on others and return disappointed when others don't act the way as we think they should. This problem is sometimes in gargantuan proportions in social media. In today's culture, it has begun to dominate even more of our lives, with an estimated 3.6 billion users worldwide, and its influence can quickly turn negative, and that deteriorates the mindsets of both youth and adults alike. The opposition would still argue with great vigor, and I am sure that social media makes the world more open and provides a connection to it. But is the benefit of connection really worth the insecurities, loneliness, and social worms that quickly become prevalent and destructive? Social media is widely known to cater to the content that people end up securing in their feeds. And with the kinds of algorithms these programs use, what people end up seeing is what most others deem to be as popular. That is the unrealistic influences. People compare themselves to these impractical images and believe that they should be like them as well. It is an unhealthy epidemic. Multiple studies and new researches have found a strong link between heavy social media and an increased risk for depression, anxiety, loneliness, self-harm, and even suicidal thoughts. And the unrealistic posts, which give rise to unrealistic expectations, are to blame for that. For example, now with the creation of more technology and Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube, magazines are known to often Photoshop and alter pictures of their models. In fact, it has become a recent trend to spot Photoshop fails in a picture. This further makes beauty standards unattainable and wildly unrealistic for both men and women, also giving body shaming and eating disorders an unnecessary push. Apart from that, the portrayal of extravagant, unrealistic lifestyle, which most influencers and celebrities seem to live these days, makes one scrutinize and criticize his or her own life. Frequent users also express that using social media gives them the fear of missing out, more commonly termed as FOMO. For people who attend them constantly check their Snap story or Instagram, only making the user wish he or she was there. But in cases, it is not, because program unrealistic expectations of what a certain individual should be up to. Thus, I would conclude by saying that most of the posts that we see are not a true reflection of people's lives, and we must learn to extract this thin line between fantasy and reality. Social media is an addiction, much like drugs, alcohol, or nicotine, and can create psychological cravings. Social media has become a detrimental aspect of our lives, making us a slave to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Noyanika, and I'm glad that you finally managed it smoothly. Thank you very much. The onus is on us, according to Noyanika. Why can we, why we need to decide whether it is, how unrealistic it is, and the popularity of social media is probably a myth, she says, and the fears of manhandling data, and portraying the wrong data or the wrong pictures is a very, very detrimental factor, right? So question for Noyanika. Yes, Asmita, you can ask the question. Asmita?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to say that was a really nice speech, but idealization makes us aspire towards perfection. So what is the harm in becoming a better version?
Thank you, dear opponent, for your question. I'm glad that you liked my speech. So first of all, what I actually body image. Why should you want to make someone feel bad about their own body? So it's nothing bad to strive for better, but this will give a rise to body shaming.
Okay, thank you for that answer.
That answers your question.
Noyanika, and thank you for the question, Ashmita. Right? So, and now we have another speaker who will be speaking for the motion, and for that, it's over to Shaurya.
Thank you, Noyanika. Thank you, Nishant. The next participant is Devart Shah from Innovator House, and he will speak for the motion.
A very good morning to one and all present here. My name is David Shah and I stand for the motion that social media creates unrealistic expectations. Now, what is this social media? Well, social media means the websites and applications like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat that enable its users to create and share content related to their life via images or videos and to participate in social networking around the world. Now, this social media has loads of downsides, and the harsh reality is that most of the content is not true. Whatever is presented to social media is perfectly curated using filters, and the people manipulate the content to present an impression of how they want to be perceived by the society. The sole motto of social media is that Any kind of attention is valuable, even though it is negative. Hence, it's causing a lot of drama in people's life. It has changed the art of living into an act of performance. It creates addiction in not only the one who posts content, but also in the people who view it. It creates immense pressure on people to succeed as they are constantly scrutinizing other people's lifestyle, appearances, and relationships by making unhealthy comparisons to their own. For example, whatever celebrities do on social media, people want to imitate them as they perceive it to be the only valid lifestyle today. People constantly post perfect selfies, pictures of places they visit, the food they eat, and the people they hang out with an expectation of gaining more likes and popularity on social media rather than enjoying the food and the company. They spend more time curating a false image of a relationship rather than focusing on the relationship itself. People constantly change themselves to follow the newest trends on such platforms and will do anything to fit in. People are battling mental, identity, and body disorders due to the unrealistic beauty standards set by what they see on social media. Social media is a toxic mirror because it spreads false information and encourages its users to get engaged with these. People are getting deceived by the fake perfection that reflects on social media, which is hazardous for the mental and emotional health, leading to falling for means such as plastic surgeries, creating fake relations, and setting false, unattainable standards for themselves. A recent survey of almost 1,500 youngsters looked at the impact of the four most popular social media platforms. The research by the Royal Society for Public Health found out that all four contribute negatively to young people's sense of self-worth, confidence, attention-seeking mentality, and levels of anxiety. I would like to conclude by saying that social media has the potential to aggravate the feelings of isolation and loneliness which feeds into a cycle of unrealistic social, mental, and lifestyle expectations. Thank you.
Thank you, Devarsh. Another analytical speech by Devarsh there, and rather stimulating too. What if the content is not true? Most of the time, he says their content may or may not be true. How do you test or ascertain the validity of the information of the facts there? And blind imitation to celebrities is actually hampering because we get much more information now because of the social media, and leave alone the part about hampering our mental and emotional health. Right? Well put, Devart, your points. Question for Devart, please. Yes, Kushan? Kushan?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for recognizing me. My worthy opponent, the speech was indeed fantastic. But don't you think if we use social media judiciously, the chance of raising unrealistic expectations is minimized? Don't you think that the fault is in the person, in the mindset of a person and not in the app? What is your take on it?
Thank you for the question, my worthy opponent. I am glad you liked my speech. Now, coming to the answer for your question, like you said, if the it is minimized, still people will have the feelings of becoming same like those people deep in their minds, even though they don't express it. And mostly people express it, they go beyond the financial limits, physical limits, and make their body do those things. I hope this answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kushan and Devart. And yes, back to Shaurya.
We have Panya Bagaria from Innovator House, and she will go against the motion.
Hashtag self-love. Hashtag body positivity. Hashtag love yourself. To love yourself is the first secret to happiness. And in this case, being yourself, thus 100% authentic online. And what promotes all this? You guessed it, social media. A very good morning to everyone present here. Today, I, Panya Bagadia, will be speaking against the motion social media creates unrealistic expectations. Yes, the opposition will bring up catfishing, Photoshop, insecurities, etc., etc. But is that all that social media is? Let me answer that for you. Absolutely not. Jealousy, the need of portraying nothing less than perfect is all there. There is no denying it. But look on the bright side. We have all come across these Instagram pages that hype you up, post about how nobody is perfect, and it is okay. There is nothing to be insecure about. Everyone is beautiful. Embrace your beauty. Yes, yes, I'm talking about those feeds that melt your heart and make you feel 100 times better being yourself. The real you. After all, social media is a forum for self expression, not oppression. Those Facebook threads that make you realize that you aren't defined by a number on a scale or the color of your skin, for God's sake. From belly rolls to big noses, none of our perceived flaws are flaws at all. They make you realize you don't have to copy and paste your personality from Pinterest just to fit in. Echoing Oscar Wilde when he rightfully said, be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. Social media pushes you to be the best version of yourself. Yes, there are clear skin filters on Snapchat. Think of it in this way. Those exact filters that the opposition might label as catfishing and creating unrealistic expectations pushes teens to eat healthy and take care of themselves in order to make dreams of acne-free skin a reality. It does not show you a healthy and fit person and tell you to edit on abs in your pictures. It shows you a fit person, encouraging and telling you how to get yourself there through hard work and determination. I know what you're thinking. Those Chloe Ting workouts that you randomly found on YouTube really paid off, didn't it? I remember those inspirational videos popping up on my For You page that seriously turned my life around. Moving on in the digital age we live in, it is not uncommon for people to meet online or through social media like dating apps. In fact, it may be more common. Hate crimes and discrimination against LGBTQ plus individuals are still shockingly prevalent across the world, making it harder for them to face the physical world. According to a recent Tinder survey, online dating can be especially helpful for the LGBTQ plus community. Of 1,000 LGBTQ plus adults who took the survey, 80% say online dating and dating apps have helped the community. 52% feel more comfortable being and embracing themselves, and 45% say it's easier to explore their identity. Social media makes them feel safe, accepted, comfortable, ruling out of the exception, of course. Today, I, standing here, do not have any issues with the opposition, but with the motion in itself. That's my stance for the day. Don't politicize social media. This is the pandemic. You're bored, go wash your hands. Thank you for listening in.
Well, thank you, Pamya. Rather dramatic speech. I like the force with which you spoke, went beyond the general concept of social media. She gave it a different perspective, a twist to the entire belief or the popular belief of social media. Just don't copy paste what it's there, she says. And it gives the best version of yourself according to her. Question for Pamya, please. Yes, Sahana?
Your speech was indeed fantastic, Panya. But you had mentioned about people getting motivated by seeing fitness Instagrammers. But what if people try as hard as they can and don't get there? Won't they feel a bit insecure? What is your take on this?
Like I mentioned, that fitness YouTubers that post workouts, daily exercises, now in the pandemic when everyone is like not in their dream body per se, but to keep yourself healthy and fit, even though you cannot go out during the pandemic, is what is most important right now. And these fitness YouTubers who post workouts and exercises that can help the people right now feel like they it helps them. And if you like, see, it's like, I cannot do this exercise right now. My body is not, it is not, in a way, it is not working to I cannot push myself to these exercises, to do these exercises. So that is what these YouTubers do. They make goals, fitness goals, and in a month you can be as fit and healthy as you were before the pandemic. So they motivate people right now, users, by motivational quotes, inspirational videos that helps them push themselves in order to be in that healthy, to have that healthy mechanism. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sahara, for the question, and thank you for the answer, Panya. Well answered there. And Shaurya, can you introduce the next speaker, please?
Thank you, Devart. Thank you, Panya. Now we have Shahana Govind from Philosopher House. She will speak for the motion.
A great man of words, Rumi, once said, "The one who has a good friend doesn't need any mirror." Madam Moderator, members of the jury, and dear friends, I really doubt if this stands true to me and many of my friends in today's world. A good friend is one who knows me very well, understands my strengths, weaknesses, talents, and passion, and guides me into taking the right decisions. For us youngsters, we rely a lot on what we see on the internet and get influenced by what we see on various social media platforms. While there is a lot of information available on the internet, its relevance to me is debatable. Do the people on these platforms even know what I am before telling me what I should be? Our generation belongs to what I believe is the cultural revolution following the industrial and information revolution. Everyone has got access to internet, which is very cheap and easily available. Our cultural expectations are developed a lot by what we see without even trying to find out if it's true or verified. Success is defined by cars, designer bags and shoes, holidays, etc. Can every parent across the social pyramid afford this? Not being able to afford these adds a lot of stress and pressure on both the parent and the child, leading in many cases to depression, anxiety, etc. Isn't this a fallout of unrealistic expectations set by social media? Likes and followers are the buzzwords today for anyone showcasing their talents. While they make the careers of many, do we even realize how many careers they break? Everyone is expected to follow the current trend or the beaten path, which kills a lot of creative ideas and concepts. Aren't these expectations restricting natural talents? Look at, for example, the folk musicians and dancers of India who rarely get showcased, other than Doordarshan. Aren't they talented? I feel they are, but they rarely trend and hence don't get to make albums like many others. Why is this so? Most production houses expect likes and following on social media. This, again, is an unrealistic expectation created by social media. Hey, look, I got 50 and 50 and A plus in all 5 of my subjects. I bet you can't beat me. This is an example of the many posts on social media about marks. Ask yourself, would I ever put up anything bad about myself or my grades? Most of you would say no. We, as humans, don't put up anything bad about ourselves because we feel the need to meet the expectations set by society. While this has always been the case, the explosion of social media magnifies the impact and sets everyone chasing unrealistic targets, often leading to mental and emotional breakdowns. With this, I strongly support the motion of social media setting unrealistic expectations. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Sahana. With the explosion of social media, it's certainly it has caused a lot of unrealistic expectations, especially since the pandemic has begun. Right. So, question for Sahana, please. Yes, Arjun.
Thank you. That was a very good speech. You also spoke about how people recommend goals without knowing you, and how people get depressed when they follow these goals and often can't achieve them. Why would you pay heed to people who you do not even know? It's your fault if you agree with someone's notion that you should be achieving something that you want. Could you please justify the statement?
In my speech, I meant the successful so-called successful people, like, for example, the Kardashians. They set these body goals and these fitness goals. We do know them and we do want to become like them. And we also do not know the results of if we try and do not succeed. We often do not know that we will not succeed. Definitely leads to depression and anxiety in most cases. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Arjun, for the question, and thank you for the convincing answer. And over to you, Shaurya.
Our last speaker in this category is Kushan Roy from Philosopher House. He will speak against the motion.
Very good morning to all who are present here. I, Kushan Roy from Philosopher House, oppose the motion that social media creates unrealistic expectations. Being addicted to social media can be a very challenging concept. Like any other addiction, excessive exposure to social media may be detrimental. Social media paints an idealistic picture of what life should be like. There's an avenue of constant comparison between what one posts and what others post. One does not get validation points, as we call it, might feel as if the expectations are not being met. One should not be mesmerized by the content and the social media and raise expectations. Then it will not lead to decreased self-esteem and will make its users happy. It is once expectations are raised by constant comparison, the person should control it and not feel depressed and unaccomplished. It is always important to be aware of the difference between trying to portray an image online and what actually happens in reality. Then social media will not be deceiving and make individuals believe in false reality. As a teenager, I've grown up alongside the rise of social media. It was Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, WhatsApp, and many more. Social media has many positive effects with better communication, timely information, socializing online, enhancing skills, making a career, and many more. Communication is a very basic need for human beings. In this pandemic, we couldn't go out and interact. The social media helped us keep alive. It is very much realistic. Social media gives you the potential to greatly increase your visibility and even become a thought leader in your space. Social media is a place for people to be with friends or to explore alone, building independence and developing the skills they need to recognize and manage risk, to learn to evaluate situations, and to deal effectively with the world that can sometimes be dangerous or hostile. These skills are more likely to develop if supported. Social media supports creativity. People can use social networking services to showcase content such as music, film, photography, or writing. Nothing is easy to crack. Social media is not easy. It is up to us whether we can make it realistic or not. We often hate what we can't have. If we are not of the level, it's our fault. If somebody today becomes a famous person through social media, there is a very low chance they'll state it as unrealistic. Today, if an influencer enters a business restaurant, the business might change. Hence, it's very much realistic. Thus, if we properly use social media, it does not have the scope of raising unrealistic expectations in the user. One should treat social media as a source of entertainment and a gainful experience to enhance opportunities. Thus, I feel I've been able to convince that social media is not a curse, but a blessing in the modern era. It is the judicious use that matters. I feel that many are not aware of the benefits of social media if used judiciously. They get carried away by the unrealistic expectations and thus are trying to justify the ill effects of social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushan. What's wrong in getting mesmerized by social media? Kushan argues, and he stresses on the positive effects of social media and firmly believes that it promotes creativity, right? So what is the question for Kushan? Yes? Arjun, do you have a question, Arjun? Yes, Arjun.
Thank you for recognizing me, respected moderator. Yes, Kushan, I really admired your speech and your points were absolutely valid. But one thing that I believe is that social media, in certain aspects, make success seem easy to achieve. It makes it seem natural. Certain pictures, because people generally say that I'm successful, I got successful because of social media, and that's why people think it's so very easy. But in reality, it isn't. So, isn't that a false expectation in itself?
Thank you so much for your question, my worthy opponent, and thank you. Well, firstly, we have to see that nothing is easy in the world. We all are chasing behind an easy lives, but life itself is not easy. That's why we have no right to expect anything easy in our lives. Our parents are working for us. We might find it easy, but when we grow, we have to face the same thing. Hence, I would like to say that nothing is easy. And though it might showcase something like that, we have to understand it's not easy. Like studies. Firstly, it might seem very easy. ABCD was easy to us. It's easy to us right now. But was it when we were in tiny tots or in class 1? It wasn't. I think I've been able to answer your question. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Arju, and thank you, Kushan. With that, we come to the end of category B debate, and I would once again like to congratulate classes 7s and 8s for their wonderful oratorical skills and power of debating. Thank you, children.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator.
Right. Thank you. So we now go to category C. Category C is for classes 9 and 10, and here we have a change of topic here. In the opinion of the House, lifestyle and mental health today poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19. Now, dear students, teachers, and others, now is the time for global solidarity and support, especially with the most vulnerable in our societies, particularly in the newly emerging world. All right. So only together can we overcome the impacts of the changing lifestyle, which in turn is affecting mental health as well. Now, the question is it affecting us in a positive or negative way? Now, to debate on this extremely pertinent and current topic, we have students from classes 9 and 10 in category C. The rules remain the same. And to call upon the first speaker, it's over to Divya Musaddi.
Thank you, ma'am. Our first participant from category C is Priyanka Shetty from Achiever House, and she will speak for the motion.
A very good morning to everyone present. I, Priyanka Shetty of Achiever House, will be speaking for the motion, Lifestyle and Mental Health Today poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19. Recent World Health Organization reports, as well as many other scientific and medical research organizations, have highlighted that up to 20% of the population is suffering from lifestyle and mental health disorders. It has already reached an epidemic proportion. Lifestyle and mental health issues result in lower productivity in the workplace and absenteeism in health concerns. Due to health concerns, employees experience unanticipated mental health consequences from mandated remote work, and it is important to be cognizant of this reality. Increasing symptoms of fatigue and low energy levels in children can contribute to their worsening mental health and lifestyle. Lack of social activities affect their emotional growth and well-being too. And all these result in a much poorer quality of life and substandard living experience. Mental health and lifestyle diseases are causing greater disruptions in the workplace, student communities, and social lives. WHO has stated that depression is one of the leading causes of disability. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among the youth. Since the early part of last year, COVID-19 has indeed changed our lifestyles. But I disagree vehemently that it is a greater disruptor than the mental health issues pre-existing to COVID that I highlighted before. My fellow opponents will say that COVID has brought forward work from home and online schooling, and this has had a major effect on us. But this is only a temporary change. It is not a disruption. It is a passing phase which will end sooner or later. whereas mental health and lifestyle challenges create a long-term effect on society by affecting a larger population. COVID has only accentuated the problems of mental illness that already existed. The withdrawal of Naomi Osaka from the Wimbledon and Simone Biles from the Olympics highlights the mental health challenges top athletes face. Mental health and lifestyle issues are something that has been prevalent for a very long period of time. We are quite certain that COVID-19 will one day be cured. The scientific progression of the human race assures us of that. Mankind has been able to conquer similar pandemics in the last centuries, like the Spanish flu, the bubonic plague, and has also eradicated diseases like smallpox and polio. But there is no one silver bullet or magic pill that will rid the world of mental health issues. Mental illnesses are prevalent among children and young adults and not given much importance because they have no measurable symptoms that can be identified with ease. It needs to be recognized. While COVID-19 is capturing all the headlines and dominating the news cycle, mental health issues slip under the radar, devastating a large population, and is the silent killer. Not COVID-19, but mental health and lifestyle issues, which was yesterday, is today, and will be tomorrow the greater disruptor unless we recognize and swiftly act on this issue. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Priyanka. A deliberative speech there. And she says that it's very important to be cognizant of the harsh reality of the harmful effects being caused to lifestyle and mental health. But this has always been there, she says. It's not something which has come just after COVID-19. And she looks at the positive side of it and says that this is only a temporary phase. Right? Thank you. And a question for Priyanka, please. Yes, Rishita, do you have a question for Priyanka?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for recognizing me.
Yes.
Priyanka, I would like to congratulate you for delivering such a wonderful speech. My question for you would be, in your speech, I might be paraphrasing, but you mentioned that work from home and etc., there are temporary changes, and it will go one day. But these same temporary changes lead to permanent mental health disorders. What do you have to say about that?
Thank you for your question, my fellow opponent. I'll try my best to answer it. Like I said, mental health issues are not, even though COVID-19 has caused mental health issues and disorders, I agree to that. But that cannot be the sole cause of permanent mental health issues. Yes, it is indirectly affecting us. I can admit to that, but it is not the sole cause. There are other effects. The mental health issues. COVID is only a temporary part. After it goes, a work from home and mental and online schooling. After it goes, even though you may have long-lasting mental health issues, there are ways to solve it. But that does not mean that COVID will continue disrupting us. It will not continue affecting our mental health even after it has gone due to issues like that. I really hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Rishita, and thank you, Priyanka, for that convincing answer. And now, Divya, if you will introduce the next speaker.
Our next participant from Achiever House is Dhwani Gupta, and she will go against the motion.
COVID-19, a term which humanity and mankind will never be able to revoke from their memories. It is more than just a pandemic, it is a horrifying and dreadful experience, stories of which the human race will narrate for generations to come. A very good morning to one and all present here. Today, I, Dhwani Gupta of Class 9, the Achiever House, will be speaking against the motion on the topic, which is lifestyle and mental health today poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19. Before presenting my arguments against the topic, let's first quickly understand what lifestyle, mental health, and COVID-19 mean. Lifestyle are the interests, opinions, and behavioral orientations of an individual, group, or culture. Mental health affects our psychological, social,
social well-being, and COVID-19 stands CO for corona, VI for virus, and D for disease. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought about severe economic crisis, not only within countries but throughout the world. Trade and commerce across the globe has suffered as businesses are forced to either operate at a loss or close business. This has affected not only employers, but also employed staff due to layoffs to cut down on staff overheads, leading to rise in disproportionate unemployment and loss of livelihood. As a result, people are cutting down on their regular lifestyle requirements, leading to lower consumption of goods, eventually slowing down world trade and economic activity between countries. This then slows down business, creating a vicious cycle of economic slowdown. COVID-19 is the greatest disruptor to the economy today, much more than simply the lifestyle of the people. COVID-19 has seen the largest spike in unemployment since the recession and economic crisis of 2008, with unemployment rates being 23.5% during peak lockdown and 13.6% as of today. Out of the people who are infected with the virus, many die, and the ones who do survive are burdened with disproportionate medical expenses. There is constant inflow of COVID-19 patients and inadequate medical infrastructure, which puts unmanageable pressure on medical staff and hospitals. More and more areas of hospitals have to be sectioned off, and this leads to increased pressure on all. And not only are non-COVID-19 patients overlooked a bit in such a scenario, but this also affects their health, as they're likely to contract the virus as they're in the same vicinity as the sectioned off areas. These are causes for anxiety, depression, and other such ailments which have shown to rise significantly during these periods. Increased screen time leads to inability in creative thinking and increased fatigue. There is inflow of devastating news regarding COVID from cross-sectional media. Lastly, due to loss of livelihood and rise in unemployment, individuals have resorted to crime to sustain themselves, leading to rise in theft and overall crime rates. Lifestyle of individuals pre-COVID times was relatively healthier, as people cared not only about their mental health and well-being, but also of their near and dear ones. Society had become more inclusive, non-discriminative, and non-stereotypical, which provided individuals with a sense of inner happiness, gratitude, and self-satisfaction. Whereas immobility during COVID times has led to individuals becoming relatively lethargic and inactive. I would like to conclude by mentioning that COVID-19 has amplified every negative that existed in our society. Most of us present here are extremely privileged, so much so we have not been able to understand the true negative impacts this epidemic has had for many of the unfortunate people around the world who have been adversely affected by it. Borrowing a line by British writer Damon Barr, "We may be in the same storm, but we are on different boats." Thank you.
Thank you, Dhwani. Another analytical speech here by Dhwani, highlighting the horrific and dreadful effects of COVID-19. Question for Dhwani. Yes. Uttaran, do you have a question for Dhwani?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the recognition, ma'am. Congratulations, Dhwani. Your speech was amazing. My question to you is, you mentioned about the economic slowdown, but don't you think it has a direct effect on mental health?
Thank you for your question, my opponent. I really appreciate that you like my speech. My stance was that COVID-19 is a greater disruptor than lifestyle and mental health today. And when I mentioned about economic slowdown, I also mentioned that depression and anxiety and other such ailments have shown to rise significantly during these COVID-19 periods. And actually, 1 in 3 adults struggle with such issues in the United States alone. So your question actually supports my point that mental health issues are not only caused by immobility, solitude, but also such issues such as economic slowdown. People have lost their jobs, their sources of livelihood. They cannot sustain themselves. People are also dying due to hunger, especially in a country like India, when unemployment is predominant in the underprivileged population. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Right. Thank you, Dhwani and Uttaram. Yes, over to you, Divya.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, Dhwani. Next, we have Yutika Mehrotra from Creator House, and she will go for the motion.
You don't have to control your thoughts. You just have to stop letting them control you. By Dan Millman. Good morning to everyone present here. Today, I, Yutika Mehrotra, speak for the motion that lifestyle and mental health today poses to be a greater disruption than COVID-19. Mental health, by definition, is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities can cope with the normal stresses of life. Now, my question to everyone is, what if a person cannot cope with the stress or pressure? What happens when a young child or an early adult or a senior citizen realizes that putting up with all the problems and stress is just not worth it anymore? It is very easy for someone to comment about an individual's state of mind or their lifestyle, but it is very hard for that very person to realize how much pain a person might be going through. And that is why I believe that despite COVID-19 being the terror that it has been and still is today, does not compare to the terrors of the mind. The US Center for Disease Control Prevention estimates that as of June 2020, nearly 1/3 of US adults were suffering from anxiety or depression. The rates are almost 2 times higher for young adults, a population that has already seen a significant increase in the prevalence for mental health disorders over the past decade. Over 60% of individuals ages 18 to 24 years were estimated to be at a risk for depression or anxiety. The rise in depression has occurred the same time stay-at-home orders, campus closures, and social distancing measures were put into order and have caused major disruptions to everyday life, altering the way people live, work, study, and interact. Mental health does not only include depression or anxiety. Mental health means to doubt yourself. Being in a bad mental state can not only change one's perspective completely, but also change one's appearance. The coronavirus is no doubt a disrupt, but the effects of the COVID-19 are even greater disrupts, such as being put in isolation and not having any mode of physical activity has played a major role in the instability of the mind. People often forget that it takes more than one bad day to push someone over the edge, meaning the process in itself is more scary than the result. To imagine what caused someone to give up is beyond my comprehension. It's the frustration that keeps building up again and again. And in that state of mind, a person may make an impulsive decision that can change everything. There often is a misconception that to be mentally unstable is to be weak, which is a very accusatory statement and one which I stand against completely. It takes courage and a lot of strength to be able to go through so many hardships and feel like breaking down every second of every day, but still being able to put a smile on your face for the rest of the world to see. It takes courage in putting up a facade amongst one's family or close friends. The disruption lies in the facades. One puts up a facade to not let the world see the pain that they are going through and don't tell anyone about their mental state, which is the entire problem. Nowadays, even after so many mental awareness camps and suicide hotlines, people are still scared to openly say that they are mentally ill, either because of peer pressure or because of the fear of being called weak. There are lucky ones who have supportive families and friends and are able to openly say what they are going through. But my dear friends, the disruption lies in the unlucky ones who are scared and feel hopeless, the ones who feel like giving up. I would like to conclude by saying that mental health is a lifestyle on its own. Sometimes it is bad and sometimes it is good, sometimes stable and other times not so much. So to all the people suffering in silence, don't be too hard on yourselves. Don't blackmail your present to ruin a beautiful future. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am. I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Right. Okay. So Yutika began by defining mental health, and there are other reasons for mental pressure and mental illness she feels. Why blame it all on COVID-19? It always existed. That's her viewpoint. And what is the question for Yutika? Can I have Anahita? Anahita? You have a question?
No, ma'am, I didn't even raise my hand.
Who's the ones who are raising that? I can't.
I have a question.
Yes, who's this asking a question?
Uttaran.
All right, yes, Uttaran.
Thank you for the recognition, ma'am. What the opponent, in your speech, you mentioned that COVID is a bigger disrupt. So isn't it contradictory to your speech and to your motion when you said that COVID is a bigger disrupt than mental health?
Okay, thank you for your question. I will try my best to answer it, but I did not not even once in my speech mention that COVID is the bigger disruptor. I said that COVID is a disruption, yes, but mental health is the greater disruption. The effects of COVID, which have just proved, like, the effects of COVID, lockdown, not being able to meet anyone physically, has just added to the stress and the pressure, and thus the deterioration of mental health. So to answer your question, in one statement, COVID-19 is a disruption, no doubt, but mental health is a bigger disruption. It does not, COVID-19 terrors did not compare to the terrors of the mind. Imagine living in your own mind and not being happy. A dark place where you have no escape. That is bad mental state. That is where you have no escape and where you can't do anything but either suffer in silence or like openly say what you're going through just for the society to call you weak.
Right, thank you. Very well put answer there, Yutika, and thank you, Uttaran. And over to you, Divya.
To follow it up, we have Anahita Tapuria from Creator House, and she will speak against the motion.
A very good morning to one and all present here. Today, I, Anahita Tapuria of Class 9D Creator House, stand against the motion that lifestyle and mental health today possess to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19. Now, I fully agree that mental health in today's generation possesses a great danger to the youth and young minds. But according to me, the dangers of COVID-19 are far more serious. Now, I am absolutely not saying that mental health issues are supposed to be taken any lighter than the COVID issues, as both these issues possess great danger and can cause a lot of damage. Now, mental health affects one person at a time, whereas COVID-19 is an airborne disease. It can happen to people by just standing next to a person, and you never know who is infected and who isn't. It is a very dangerous disease as it can cause a lot of health issues. Not only from standing close to a person can you get affected by the virus, but there is a strong chance that even if someone sneezes or coughs around you, your life is in danger. To take precautions against this deadly virus, countries all over the world have made rules such as wearing masks, using hand sanitizers, and even quarantine if necessary. Sometimes even these masks become dangerous as older people and asthma patients aren't an exception to this rule, and they're also forced to wear masks whenever they go out. So wearing these masks can cause a lot of trouble in breathing and sometimes even forces the person wearing the mask to pant rapidly. Now, there are ways to help a troubled mind by therapy, medication, etc., and even meditation. And yes, for COVID-19 also, many medications have come out. And yes, vaccines have also been made. But many people today are dying because of these vaccines. For mental health also, sometimes patients are told to take medications. And yes, some people might even get side effects from that, but it does not happen on a daily basis. It does not happen to be that thousands of lives of children, adults, and family members are lost because of it. In today's generation, mental health issues seems to be rising. And the more dangerous fact is that children are suffering far more from this than they should. Some children feel burdened enough to a limit that they end their lives, while some children don't lose hope and keep on trying to fix their issues and live on. But that isn't the case with this virus. If someone is once affected by it, you don't know whether they will live or not, no matter if they give up hope or not. Surviving this dangerous virus is a gamble of fate. And in this gamble, thousands to millions of lives have been lost, from old citizens to small newborn children of a few months. Small children who have just been brought into this world who don't know anything about mental health issues, depression, or even lifestyle. It is like they don't even know how to stand up on their own feet or eat by themselves, yet they die because of this virus. Think of the pain a mother has to go through after losing her newborn child, after carrying it, nurturing it, and loving it for 9 months. Think of the sadness and pressure that would be felt by the mother. This is what would cause her mental health issues, and maybe this would be what would lead her to end her life. Yes, I also say that loss of any living soul hurts, but it is nothing compared to the pain felt by a mother who has just lost her newborn child to this deadly virus. There is a famous saying by Ernest Hemingway: the smallest coffins are always the heaviest. Thank you.
Thank you, Anahita. You've clearly differentiated between mental health and the COVID-19, and Anahita even recommends therapy to appease mental health. Right? Question for Anahita, please. And yes, how about Shorita? Is that right? Have I pronounced Shorita? Yes, your question for Anahita, please.
You said that thousands of people and children do not die due to COVID, due to mental health complications, but according to WHO, 700,000 people die every year due to suicide and mental health complications. What do you have to say about that?
Thank you for the question, my worthy opponent. But as I also said during my speech, that yes, mental health causes a lot of trouble, but so does COVID-19. And because of situations in the present circumstances, mental health issues are increasing because of COVID-19, because of which many suicides and more issues are being created in young minds as well as adults. And yes, mental health does cause lots of suicides every year, but it does not cause the pain of losing a small child who's just been brought into this world. A mother does not have to feel that pain of losing something that she has just nurtured and cared for 9 months, and then has gone through the laboral pain of bringing it into the world. And that, because that happens, the mother might even commit suicide because she has lost a loved one to a whole other level, and the pain is much greater, and that would just add up to the suicide number. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Anahita, for reasoning it out the way you did. And thank you for the question, Sorita. And it's over to you, Divya.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Yutika. Thank you, Anahita. Next, we have Shauritra Kaur from Innovator House, and he will speak for the motion.
Good morning, good afternoon, judges, teachers, and my worthy opponents. I'm Shauritra Kaur of class 9C, speaking for the motion. Mental health is one of the most widely researched and discussed topics globally. Yet, having peace of mind is tough, given the unfortunate news every day in these challenging times. COVID-19 has caused fear and concern among people. A WHO survey found that 93% of countries have disrupted mental health services when demand is rising. It's the first global study to show the damaging effects of COVID-19 on mental health and services. Stress has the most significant psychological impact to date in terms of public mental health. Measures to control the pandemic have impacted many people's routines and livelihoods, thus increasing loneliness, depression, substance use, and suicidal behavior. Many pandemic-related consequences, such as the closure of universities and loss of income, have contributed greatly to poor mental health in young adults. 56% of people aged 18 to 24 experienced anxiety and depression during the pandemic. Nearly 1 in 5 US adults, that is 47 million people, reported having a mental illness. 700,000 people die due to suicide every year, according to WHO. Essential workers face the risk of contracting the virus, among other occupational hazards, and are more likely to begin or increase substance use and suicidal thoughts during the pandemic. Mental health conditions are being triggered or aggravated by the pandemic, leading to neurological complications. The risk of severe outcomes and even death are higher for people affected. As the Olympics approached, it was evident that COVID posed a significant threat, and now it's time to consider a bigger yet largely ignored threat in sports, which is mental health. First, gymnast Simone Biles pulled out early from the competition, citing mental issues. Shortly after, Ben Stokes, the incredible English all-rounder, announced his absence from the India vs England Test series to take time off and prioritize his mental well-being. Naomi Osaka also pulled out from the French Open. COVID hasn't stopped these athletes, but mental health has. The most obvious measure of quality of life is happiness. According to the World Happiness Report 2021, there has been surprising resilience in how people rate their lives overall. The change from 2017 to 2019 to 2020 varied considerably among countries, but not enough to change rankings in any significant fashion materially. The same countries remain at the top. Mental health and COVID aren't unrelated. Mental health has been one of the casualties of both the pandemic and the resulting lockdowns. As the pandemic struck, there was an immediate decline in mental health in many countries worldwide. Estimates vary depending on the measure used and the country in question, but the findings are remarkably similar. In the UK in May 2020, a general measure of mental health was 7.7% lower than predicted without the pandemic, and the number of mental health problems reported was 47% higher. However, as all the numbers also say, mental health problems were prevalent even before COVID, and it only made them worse and more pronounced in people. In conclusion, bad lifestyle and mental health were problems before COVID-19. They are huge during COVID, and they will continue to be problems after COVID-19. The pandemic has adversely affected both these areas, but it's not the sole cause. It's just a newest one in the line of other reasons affecting them, proving they are the greater disruptor than the virus. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaurita. You are not separating mental health and the COVID-19, and peace of mind today has become especially, unachievable these days, and how it is posing a serious threat to the people all around the world has been well highlighted. Question for Shaurita. And to ask the question, Anahita, can you ask the question, please?
Thank you for the recognition, moderator ma'am. And a very lovely speech, my opponent, which made a lot of logic and was very helpful. Now, I would like to ask you that, yes, mental health is a disruption, but it's become worse after COVID-19. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's exactly what my entire speech was about, that it's severely affected by the pandemic, and it has increased, it has become huge during COVID-19, but it was prevalent even before COVID-19 and after COVID-19. The pandemic is just one of the newest factors in store. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Sauritra, and thank you for the question, Anahita. Yes, over to you, Divya.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we have Rishita Dev from Innovator House, and she will go against the motion.
Am I audible and visible properly?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Thanks, ma'am. I'll begin now. When someone sneezed, we went from God bless you to God bless me. From 100-mark written papers to MCQs, the world took a toll. I mean, it's safe to say that elaichi in biryani, COVID-19 is one of the biggest disruptors. A very good morning to one and all present here. I am Rishita Dev from Innovator House, and I stand against today's motion. Now, let me affirm one thing before we proceed. When we say that lifestyle and mental health aren't disruptors or aren't as huge disruptors, we aren't disregarding their effects. That's not at all the case. And we aren't saying that these are issues that do not need attention. But we are saying that when we look at the world today, the virus surely tops the list. But hey, let's not take my word for it. The PNAS used a longitudinal data set in several cohorts of young adults before and during COVID-19, recording decline in mental health, adaptation of unhealthy lifestyle, the decline in physical well-being, and etc. Professors like Tanja Michael and the UN itself reported similar such articles. And as rightly mentioned by the KFF, people have experienced several pandemic-related consequences, such as closure of schools and universities, loss of income, and these factors contribute and are contributing to poor mental health. During the pandemic, a larger than average share reports symptoms of anxiety or depressive disorder. Now coming to lifestyle. The University of West of Scotland surveyed 100 students, concluding to the fact that 61 of them started consuming more unhealthy food. 54 of them had disordered sleep schedules. 65 of them gave up on any sort of physical activity, or etc. And trust me, I totally relate. But disruptions didn't only occur in these sectors. From April to June 2020, India's GDP dropped by a massive 24.4%, according to the latest national income estimates. Then you had your food insecurity, which is a serious social and public health problem that was intensified by COVID-19 pandemic, especially in resource-poor countries. Studies conducted by the renowned Dr. R. Singh showed the lack of access individuals had to food and essentials, especially daily wage workers in countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, and even our own country, India. You had educational sectors collapsing, maritime fishing, health, tourism, ports, meat processing, construction, entertainment, and what not. A year ago, we were saying climate change, protectionism, and automation had the most potential to not only significantly change agriculture and food industries, but also disrupt the global economy. But now, it's safe to say that the emergence of a global pandemic has added fuel to that fire of change and now tops our list of the most significant disruptors. Now, I know members of the proposition had brought up statements like mental health was an issue before COVID-19. It did get catalyzed now, but it will still be an issue after COVID-19. Or COVID-19 is temporary and we will go back to resolving issues like mental health. Now, what I want to tell all of you is that I do not disagree. Mental health is an issue. Even I support that should get more attention and we need to give it more attention. But my point here is we are looking at the world today. COVID-19 served as an umbrella term for not only mental health, but so many other sectors. Mental health and lifestyle aspects that have several layers and need issues. But COVID-19 resulted in loss of migrant workers, loss of jobs, deaths that couldn't even be reported, governments not being able to help their citizens. It's the most sudden shift any of us had to go through. And by that, I rest my case, but definitely not my stance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rishita. Rishita traced the journey from God bless you to God bless me, right? And she's used statistical data in support of her arguments. Well argued their question for Rishita. And if I may request Priyanka to ask a question, please. Priyanka.
Thank you, moderator, for recognizing me. Thank you, Rishita. That was a wonderful speech. And like you said, COVID has only increased the mental health issues that are already there. Yes, there are mental health issues that have been prevalent. But the fact that your statistics are not showing that mental health issues are sweeping people, are causing more devastation under the radar. It is a silent killer. You are not seeing that its effects are much more drastic than COVID. What do you have to say about this?
Thank you so much for your question. So I mentioned in my speech, and I even stated your points as well, that mental health is an issue that has been existing even before COVID-19. There is no two way about that. But when you say that mental health is a silent killer, we cannot disagree. And I absolutely agree. There's so many people who do not speak about their mental health issues. But COVID-19 is an issue that encapsulates that. COVID-19 is not setting mental health apart. It encapsulates mental health, physical health, and so much more, including economy, countries failing. Mental health definitely is a silent killer, but COVID-19 has catalyzed its effects. And now we see the raise in it. Mental health was something that was prevalent, but during COVID, it has grown even more and more, and people are not being able to access treatment because people can't even access treatment for COVID itself. And I really hope that answers your question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And over to you, Divya, once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Chauritra. Thank you, Rishita. Now we have Abhisha Das from Philosopher House, and she will speak for the motion.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Okay. Just go closer to the mic.
Good morning to one and all present here. I, Abhisha Das of Philosopher House, will be speaking for the motion that lifestyle and mental health today pose to be greater disruptors than COVID-19. Let me share a small experience with you. A dear aunt of mine, one of the most outgoing souls I knew, fell into depression after a life-changing event. Her life went from going out every day to her only visit going is the psychiatrist's office. Every other household encompassing all age groups face mental health issues today. Idealism is a utopia, and no perfect scenario can guarantee that one will not fall prey to such issues. In the 21st century, we all have become excessively robotic, and it affects our personal relationships. Negative competition, toxic positivity, excess work pressure, these all add to the mental fatigue, and this pandemic situation just added fuel to the fire. People tend to resort to unhealthy coping mechanisms, which provide temporary pleasure and a permanent damage. If we take the examples of bulimia or anorexia, which are deemed eating disorders which are deep-rooted from mental health issues, we have seen a significant rise during the COVID times, with 11% of the adult population suffering from it, which all lead to other diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. And we have also seen an alarming rise in the suicide rates, with more than 77% of the cases belonging to low and middle income countries. More than 700,000 people die every year due to suicide, which makes it approximately one person dead every 40 seconds, according to WHO. It is clear that the COVID-19 virus goes beyond the physical ailments, and the lifestyle associated with it is a greater threat, especially to our mental well-being. Yes, people are losing hundreds of their dear ones, and it still continues to. But we have hope in the form of a vaccine. Mass vaccination programs have seen a huge detriment in the number of cases. And history has given us enough evidence that previous pandemic situations which ravaged the world all settled down in due course of time. I'm pretty sure everyone here knows about the Spanish flu of 1918, which lasted for 2 years. And to be noted here is that time we did not have RT-PCR testing, neither did we have vaccinations, only masks and social distancing. This is also enough reason for us to believe that soon COVID will go to the endemic stage and become like the seasonal flu. But we do not have any guarantee that mental health issues will not persist for the upcoming years or so many years to come. In the words of Michelle Obama, whether your illness is in your leg, in your heart, or in your brain, it is an illness and there should be no distinction. Trust me, COVID or no COVID, depression, anxiety, stress-induced eating, alcoholism will always be a part and parcel of our modern day lives. We can also say that technology is both a boon and a bane. Nature, a chat over coffee, qualitative family time have all been replaced by being engrossed in gadgets, being a part of the rat race life, which makes us a social recluse and quote unquote lonely. And we can very easily say that the older generation, even though simpler and maybe not as advanced, were much happier because they had people they can talk to and open up to. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhisha. Abhisha has very forcefully put forth her arguments in favor of the motion, and she says that negative competition, internet fatigue are all matters of great concern which we need to tackle today. So, question for Abhisha, and can I request Dhwani to ask the question, please? Dhwani?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, Abhisha, thank you for recognizing me, Madam Moderator. I would like to ask you the question, Abhisha. You said that COVID-19 will have extremely temporary effects and that its effects will go away in about 2-3 years. But how do you explain the fact that for many of the underprivileged in India, education has gone away and there is mass youth unemployment as of today, which will have prevalent effects for much more than 10-15 years and will affect the lives of those individuals for the entire lifetime?
Dhwani, thank you for your question. As I said in my speech, we first of all have to look at the greater aspect here. COVID is an emergency, and yes, it is affecting people. Loss of livelihood, education, yes, that is all there. But with COVID being gone in a few years, like I had said, it will go just like the Spanish flu did. Those issues will also get resolved because no country ever runs out of people to employ. There will always be issues like that during a country emergency like this, but it will get better when COVID goes. But mental health issues, especially with the stigmatization of the topic, will always be a part of our problems. We cannot depend on like our government to do something about it, because we do have resources, but the stigmatization of the topic will always be an issue. But COVID-19, again, as I said, once the situation settles down, unemployment, education, these will all also come back. Like unemployment will not be an issue. People will get jobs after that. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
All right, thank you for asking the question and for answering it, Abhisha. It's over to Divya.
Thank you, ma'am. Our last speaker in this category is Uttaran Dev from Philosopher House, and he will speak against the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Uttaran.
Yes,
just speak closer to the mic.
Yes, thank you. A virus smashes millions of simian gods. Is the backbone of the civilization of insectile self-centeredness. Good morning to one and all present here. Today I, Uttarandi from the Philosopher House, stand against the motion lifestyle diseases and mental health are more destructive than COVID-19. Global governments have spent millions and trillions to make nuclear bombs, cities, arms and ammunitions, but couldn't do anything to exalt the life of humanity. The coronavirus pandemic has changed our life forever and has put up a barrier to normal lifestyle. I will not go into statistics, but let me tell you what this COVID is doing and how much dangerous it is and how it can be. Right now, few days back, we saw a global shortage of oxygen, of beds, of ventilators. This has proven that our healthcare system, the global healthcare system is breaking down. We are on the verge of collapse, but still there was no help. Instead of using trillions, billions, and millions on military budget, on cities, on towns, we could have done that on healthcare system. Lifestyle disease is important as well. Disease has a higher contribution to the cases of death. Indeed, mental illness and mental health, they again going by the status of number, they are much higher than COVID-19. But when we are saying COVID-19 and its infectivity and its lethality rate, we can see it. What's the situation right now? Our healthcare system is falling, but still some of us are busy doing religious politics and warmongering politics. Right now, we need to concentrate on vaccinating each and every one. Right now, the only way is COVID appropriate behavior and vaccination. As of now, only 30% of the received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine and 16% has been fully vaccinated. A puny virus has waged war on mankind and has locked us in our houses and has destroyed our fancy economies and militaries just like a wave of water washing away a sandy castle on a beach. A world without the Almighty God is a beautiful hell of nihilism of life. A virus forces the fake nation Superman to die a dog's death. Into which I would like to say, a virus thunders the sound and fury of a god into a sepulchral silence. The apocalyptic pandemic will leave the world in utter amorphy and imbalance. It will dump the old age science, ethics, politics, and junkisms into oblivion. Even God gives no guarantee that man won't forget the apocalyptic COVID-19 tragedy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that spirited speech, Uttaran. And you've, while the healthcare needs so much importance, politics is gaining, and they're making their presence felt by paying little attention to an issue so grave, right? So, can I have a question? And Abhisha, can Abhisha ask the question, please? Abhisha?
Ma'am, I didn't have my hand raised.
Okay, then yes, Risha. Yes.
Okay, that great speech, Uttaran. So what I would like to point out is that you made the COVID-19 seem like it is the biggest crisis to have ever happened. But really, we have seen in history, time and time again, that there have been various situations that have destroyed mankind, but then people have recovered from it. Like in the Second World War, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is one of the worst situations that could have ever confronted us. But people recovered. But I feel mental health is such an issue that that is going to go on, and more people are suffering from anxiety and depression, and more people are going to psychiatrists. So how would you justify that?
Thank you for your question, worthy opponent. For mental health, we have treatment. We have vaccines which are not working in many cases. Only a few percentage of the world population has been vaccinated. Mental health is definitely an important topic. We need to speak on that. But when we come about COVID, then we need to immediately deal with it. COVID is here. We could have stopped it. We could have stopped it with our fancy economies if we used that money on making our healthcare system strong. We could have instead, if we didn't do the religious politics, but we chose religious politics, fancy economy, military, global military expensive. Mental health definitely needs more attention, but COVID is the thing which is first in hand and needs to be resolved immediately. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for that equally spirited answer. It was as spirited as your speech, Uttaran. And with that, we come to the end of category C. We now move on to category D, which is students of classes 11 and 12. And the topic remains the same. The rules remain unchanged. Right? So, and to introduce the first speaker, it's over to Ayushi.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to our last category. Our first speaker in this category is Ritika Singh from Achiever House, who will speak for the motion.
A very good morning to one and all present here. Today, I, Ritika Singh of class 11B, stands for the motion. Lifestyle and mental health today possesses to be a greater disruptive than COVID-19. The burden of mental disorder continues to grow with significant impacts on health and major social, human rights, and economic consequences in all the countries of the world for issues like depression, bipolar disorder, dementia, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, developmental disorders such as autism. All we can witness is the worsening of the situation. The casualties of COVID-19 aren't much in our hands. All we can do is take precautions to protect ourselves from the virus and, in case affected, try our best to provide the best treatment. However, for mental health issues like anxiety and depression, which are one of the most common problems with around 1 of 10 people affected at one time, which leaves a severe and long-lasting impact on the people's ability to get on with life. The treatment is extremely difficult and strenuous for both the sufferer and their families. 13% of the world's population is affected by the depression and substance use disorder. Mental health issues are in any day a way more serious issue, as it has an extremely long-term effect. The trauma doesn't seem to fade. The flashbacks don't seem to go. Individuals suffering from panic attacks don't really recover fully. The number of attacks take a long period of time to eventually decrease and an innumerable amount of time to fully end. On the other hand, unhealthy and sedentary lifestyles increase all causes of mortality, double the risk of cardiovascular diseases, diabetes and obesity, and increase of the reason of colon cancer, high blood pressure, osteoporosis, and lipid disorders. Even in spite of this, we see social media trying to portray obesity and unhealthy lifestyles in the name of body positivity and self-acceptance. It's simply not body positivity until and unless one is actually diagnosed with disorders which prevent them to work out and stay fit, as these things will make them feel good about themselves for a short span of time, but will be a troublesome procedure in the long run. The expense of the treatments needed for the issues like cardiovascular diseases, cancer, etc. are also way more expensive than the COVID treatment. Cancer kills around 5,000 people a day, and the worst COVID has done in India is 3,000. I also believe in the fact that the world has previously experienced and come through such pandemics, such as influenza and plague, which lasted for about 1 or 2 years at max. So by God's grace, even COVID shall leave soon. The COVID cases are already decreasing, but on the other hand, the diseases I mentioned above 2 have been prevailing right from the 16th century, with innumerable number of deaths and about 8 lakh suicides are reported every year due to depression, along with lifetime risk of suicide among patients with untreated depressive disorder being nearly 20%. People usually say how COVID has changed their lifestyle and they don't get to go out. Well, this is just something temporary, yet we feel so disturbed and troubled. Imagine about the people who are depressed and their entire lives go on this way. They feel this way all the time. They don't feel like going out. They don't feel like doing anything whatsoever. Imagine having a life tormented this way. When we are COVID positive, at least we can seek treatment, go to the doctor without fearing the fact that we'll be judged, looked down upon, and claimed to be not okay in the mind. But when people are depressed, most of them are in such a position that they are indeed unable to even express themselves or seek treatment because of all the stereotypes and horrific thoughts coming up in their minds. However, all we can do is try our best to stay safe from COVID. But for cases like unhealthy lifestyles and mental health problems, there's a lot more what we can do and what we should do, as the effects are extremely long-term and serious. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritika. And Ritika focuses a point that mental health, things like anxiety and depression, people don't even recover fully, and they have always existed, she says. And a penny for your thoughts, Ritika. You did say that it's going to be soon going, COVID-19, the positive aspect, and we all hope for that. A question for Ritika. Ved, can you ask the question, please?
Thank you so much, Madam Chairperson, for recognizing me. And a wonderful speech, Ritika. Congratulations. I heard you, and yes, I absolutely have to agree that mental health is actually an issue that has been there since the beginning, since 16th century. But the problem is, like my fellow debater Rissa had mentioned, the COVID pandemic has aggravated the problem of mental issue. For instance, we aren't able to step out of our houses, for instance, and yes, that's even leading to greater depression. On top of that, the healthcare sector, the economic sector, they've all been severely impacted by the pandemic. It's true that the cases are starting to lower, according to you, but what about the ripple effect which it has on the weavers who can't get jobs in such a short amount of time, even though cases have decreased? What about that? What do you have to say?
Oh, very good question, fellow debater. But I would like to say that a mental disability itself closes so many job opportunities, and it requires so much effort to raise such individuals that parents often choose to abort a child if found with a disability during testing, even if it is fault. So right now, COVID is leading for people to lose their jobs, and many are unemployed. But there are people who don't even get jobs in the first place because of their mental status and because of their issues. Thank you. I hope I answered your question.
Right.
Yes, thank you, Ritika.
Thank you, Ritika, for that convincing answer. And thank you, Ved. And it's over to you, Aishi.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next participant from Achiever House is Swamshri Mohanty, who will speak against the motion.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yeah, slightly closer to the mic, Swamshri.
Ma'am, is it fine right now?
Yeah, better.
Thank you, ma'am. From playing in the fields, basking in the sun, and exploring new places, to sitting long hours in front of a screen, trying to get through the day just to relive it all over again. Oh, how the times have changed, and we have nothing else but COVID-19 to blame. A very good morning to one and all present here. My name is Swamshri Mohanty, and today I will be speaking against the motion that is, lifestyle and mental health today poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19. Just a few seconds ago, I asked you, am I visible? Am I audible? I wouldn't have done that if the competition was being held in person. COVID-19 is the reason why we are having this debate online in the very first place. How can someone say that COVID-19 does not pose to be the greater disruption, if not the greatest disruption in the present times? The COVID-19 pandemic continues to pose significant challenges to nations. Governments aim to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 through stay-at-home strategies, maintaining social distance, which resulted in major changes in lifestyle, mental health, and quality of life of citizens. With lockdowns and quarantines being implemented, there was a significant decline in physical and other meaningful activities, including those of daily living, social activity, and education. People had reported that their quality of life and mental health had deteriorated after the pandemic struck. COVID-19 affected the mental state of healthy individuals who would not have been faced with such mental health deterioration if it hadn't been for the pandemic. After all, humans are social beings. The famous Greek philosopher Aristotle once said, "Man is by nature a social animal. An individual who is unsocial naturally and not accidentally is either beneath our notice or more than human." We need interaction, we crave conversations. Many of us feel lonely from time to time, and these short term feelings shouldn't harm our mental health. However, the longer the pandemic goes on for, the more these feelings become long term. Long term loneliness is associated with an increased risk of certain mental health problems, including depression, anxiety, and increased stress. From all this information, one thing is crystal clear, that COVID-19 was the root cause for a mental health crisis that emerged during the pandemic. COVID-19 has led to the death of young, healthy individuals, while the name lifestyle diseases itself suggests that they affect only certain people. People suffering with lifestyle diseases or mental health problems can seek professional treatment, which has proven to be extremely effective and beneficial for millions. Here it all comes down to an individual's effort. But in the case of COVID-19, where the spread of the virus is inevitable, the only hope of recovery or return to normalcy can be achieved through a collective measure. A collective effort by a nation, and in a country like India with such a vast population, that is a very challenging thing to do. COVID-19 caught the world by surprise, as it is a relatively new kind of virus. It causes great pain and suffering to the infected patients. Not only does it cause problems during the treatment, but also after a patient is discharged. COVID has had post-recovery complications, including renal damage, neurological problems unheard of in most other viral diseases. This shows that it is a much more complicated disease than anyone had anticipated. COVID-19 has led to The COVID-19 pandemic has led to a dramatic loss of human life and presents an unprecedented challenge to public health, food systems, and the world of work. The economic and social disruption caused by the pandemic is devastating. Tens of millions of people are at risk of falling into extreme poverty. Millions of enterprises face an existential threat. Nearly half of the world's 3.3 billion global workforce are at risk of losing their livelihoods. Imagine the impact of this disease that has already ushered in a new era for humanity after its arrival, while these lifestyle-based diseases have been there for the last few centuries without affecting public life significantly. I would thus like to say that COVID-19 is undoubtedly the greater disruption in today's world. With this, I rest my case, but certainly not my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Swayamshri. Swayamshri started with beautiful rhetorical lines there, justifies that lifestyle and health have deteriorated. 19 is the villain of the whole show, right? So question for, yes, Richard, can you ask the question?
Yes, ma'am. So, Swayamshri, your speech was wonderful, but I would like to paraphrase you. You said COVID-19 is the root cause of mental problems. Now, I want to take an example. So suppose we take a child who is being moved from one foster home to another because his parents passed away and he is being physically abused. Do you think that the mental problems of depression and anxiety that he will be facing will be because of the pandemic? And do you think that the pandemic crisis would affect him at all?
Well, thank you for your question. And like talking about your paraphrase, I said that COVID-19 was the root cause for a mental health crisis that emerged during the pandemic. And the motion of today's debate is lifestyle and mental health. Today, I want to highlight the word today, poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19. COVID-19 has affected economies, and it is one of the deadliest and dangerous challenges that the world has faced in our lifetime. It is above all human crisis with severe health and socio-economic causes. Of course, like a person who is dealing with I'm not trying to say that mental illness don't have importance. That's not the point of today's motion. I want to say that COVID-19 not only affects people, but it also affects public life, economies, and it just, as previous speakers stated, that it catalyzes mental illness. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rishabh. And thank you, Swayamshri. Over to you, Aishi.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ritika. Thank you, Swayamshri. Next up, we have Aditya Banerjee from Creator House, who will speak for the motion.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
So I'm starting. A burger doesn't cost $3.99, it costs your health. Netflix doesn't cost $17.99, it costs your time. Social media is not free, it costs your focus. A very good morning to one and all present here. Today, I, Aditya Banerjee, shall be speaking for the motion that lifestyle and mental health today poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID 19. The COVID 19 pandemic imposed upon us a sudden lockdown, and we were confined within the four walls of our home. The sudden shift in the paradigm of normalcy in our lives threw us off our guards. The pandemic pushed us towards living a sedentary lifestyle and pushed us towards living a sedentary lifestyle. It is not very surprising considering the fact that we were under house arrest since the outbreak of the virus. The sedentary lifestyle has led to increased lethargy, lack of concentration and focus, and disrupted routines and sleep cycles. Apparently, the problem of disrupted sleep cycles might seem ignorable, but it does have long term health consequences. Long standing sleep deprivation causes increased heart rate and high blood pressure. Studies have suggested that people who usually sleep less than 5 hours a night have increased risk of developing diabetes. The new reality of working from home, temporary unemployment, homeschooling or online schooling for children, and lack of physical contact with family members, colleagues, friends, and relatives takes time to get used to. Adapting to such a lifestyle change and managing the fear of contracting the disease and worrying about people close to us who are particularly vulnerable to it is hard for all. Psychiatric Society of India indicates 20% rise in the patients suffering from mental illness. India-based NGO Agewell Foundation for the elderly held conversations with around 5,000 elderly people in India in April 2020. Of these, around 63% reported developing symptoms of depression. When it comes to mental health disorders, the proportion of young workers affected by the crisis appears to be greater. Unable to cope with the immense stress of working amid the pandemic, various frontline health workers and doctors have given up on their own lives. According to a research study reported by Economic Times, 338 suicides were reported in India within the first 45 days of the pandemic. Primary reasons cited being loneliness and depression. During the deadly second wave, the suicide helplines have been overwhelmed with calls from people belonging to all walks of life. Mental health professionals agree that the fallout from this pandemic will be the perfect breeding ground for chronic anxiety, chronic stress, anxiety, depression, and alcohol dependency. Let me share a small incident that highlights the fact that how mental health of the elderly has been adversely affected during these COVID times. A 74-year-old former central government employee and his wife, both residents of a four-story building in Joka, committed suicide by consuming an entire strip of sleeping pills. The couple wrote a detailed suicide note and titled it Ichha Mrityu. The letter hinted that they both felt lonely and might have been fearing old age ailments. Therefore, I would like to conclude by saying that lifestyle and mental health today does pose as a greater disruptor than COVID 19 because COVID 19 will soon end. But these lifestyle changes and lifestyle diseases are here to stay. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya. You started your speech with the burger, and that's at my sort. For a second I forgot about the debate because it's almost lunchtime. Yes, Aditya blames the sedentary lifestyle, and it's caused it all. A question I would like to ask all members of the proposition: isn't that related to COVID-19? Hasn't it aggravated because of COVID-19? Think about it. Question for Aditya and Rishita. Can you ask the question, please?
Thank you for recognizing Imam. Aditya, wonderful speech, but you did, in your speech, you did mention the surge of mental health issues because of COVID-19. Doesn't that essentially go on to prove the opposing stance?
Thank you for your question, my fellow opponent. So my interpretation of this topic that reads, lifestyle and mental health today poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19. Like lifestyle and mental health problems that are caused due to the COVID-19 are the lifestyle changes that are happening today, right? So that is posing to be a greater disruptor than just the disease or just COVID-19, the virus. I like the lifestyle changes that COVID-19 has brought into our society and to the world. I think that is posing to be a greater disruptor than just COVID-19, the disease. So that's my interpretation of the topic, and I think that's what I mentioned in my speech.
Right. Right to the point answered, Aditya and Ayushi, if you will do the honors.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. To follow it up, we have Arushi Dubey from Creator House, who will speak against the motion.
Rattled, shattered, perturbed. These are just some of the words which can be used to describe our lives due to COVID-19. A very good morning to everyone. I am Arushi Dubey from the Creator House and I stand against the motion. COVID-19, a word that has become an inseparable part of our vocabulary. Something as impactful as a pandemic cannot be reduced to a temporary phase, be it physically, psychologically, socially, or economically. The changes which the virus has brought are disastrous, deep-rooted, and definitely not vanishing anytime soon. As of yesterday, 4.3 million lives have been lost worldwide. Yes, 4.3 million lives which cannot be brought back. And even as I speak, who knows how different strains are mutating, ready to strike at any moment. Thousands of families have been broken, children left orphaned, and lives changed forever. And that is just a fraction of what COVID has done and is continuing to do. It brought some of the most powerful countries in the world to their knees. And I'm sure each and every one of you here still has not forgotten the heart-wrenching scenes from when the second wave hit us with such ferocity. The first and most evident impact, physical health. Never before have we as a society understood the fragility of life. While many couldn't survive the attack of the virus, those who did were left with certain long-lasting effects on their health. Reduced immunity and energy levels, loss of taste and smell even after months of recovery are quite common. But more importantly, patients have been seen to have long-term damages to their heart, lungs, and brain. Fear, anxiety, and isolation have taken a toll on every individual. More than 220 million jobs were lost last year. Careers derailed, families left with no source of income. The deepest period of recession since the Second World War. It goes without saying that COVID has wreaked havoc on the global economy. Several small businesses were left with no other option but to shut down. Moreover, it has taken a disproportionate toll on the underprivileged. Not only are they highly exposed to the virus, but they are also more likely to get severely sick. We all remember the stories of countless migrant laborers, don't we? Education, industries, output levels, name it, and you'll find major problems being faced which stem from the impact of the virus itself. Other than that, it has led to an increase in domestic violence, etc. My point is, the disruption caused by COVID is so extensive and potent that it is impossible to even sum it up in a 3-minute speech. It has magnified every existing disparity and exposed underlying problems in our society. Nobody has accurate answers as to when it will come to an end or solutions for how everything will go back to normal. It cannot. Mental health, while extremely important, is just one of the factors which COVID has amplified and will continue to be a part of our lives, just like other physical illnesses. Coming back to the motion, which some of the speakers here have ignored, today, COVID is a greater disruptor. Mental health and lifestyle problems, to a great extent, have treatments available. However, the havoc caused by the pandemic is not just widespread, but leaves very little scope for seizing control of the situation. The threat of the virus continues to loom large over our lives. The disruption caused by the novel coronavirus will be etched into our memories for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Arushi. Rattled, shattered, and perturbed are the words that you begin with, and that kind of exemplifies the situation today and how disparities have been magnified. Tista, can you ask a question, please? I can see your hand raised.
Thank you for acknowledging me, Madam Chairperson. Arushi,
Your speech was really good. Just one thing. The 4.3 billion lives lost, like you mentioned, their families are now suffering. The people's sufferings have now been passed on to their families. The people who have lost their jobs, they are now struggling mentally. What do you have to say about the link between COVID and mental health?
Thank you for your question. It is an undeniable fact that COVID has multifaceted impact, but doesn't that bring us back to the topic? All of this stems from COVID itself, and thus, as a whole, COVID has caused mental health problems and so much more. So I think that answers your question.
Thank you. It's now over to Ayushi again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you, Arushi. Going next is Rishabh Mitra from the Innovator House, who will speak for the motion.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
There is hope, even when your brain tells you there isn't. These words, said by John Green, echo the importance of mental health in our lives and what many people are going through. Problems like anxiety and depression have become common and household words. We say now that I'm suffering through depression because the truth is we are all a little depressed in our lives. We all feel a little bit of sorrow in our lives. And really, mental health is such a problem that is very complex. The way I look at mental health may not be the way you look at it, but it is a problem worth addressing. Good morning to the esteemed judges, teachers, Madam Moderator, and everyone who is watching this live stream. I am Rishabh Mitra of Innovator House, and I stand for the motion that lifestyle and mental health today poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19. The real reason why mental health is such a big problem is that it has been ignored for generations. A person suffering through anxiety or depression will not usually open up. In fact, statistically, it is shown that there is an 80% chance that someone suffering from anxiety and depression is not going to open up about their problems because they feel that people are going to judge them. And when such psychological problems affect someone, then lifestyle changes. That is why there is increase in crime rates, sexual abuse, and people have gotten into addictive substances like cigarettes, alcohol, and drugs. In fact, statistics has proved that a person having psychological disorders is 21/2, that is 10.5 times more likely to commit a crime than someone who isn't. So yes, mental health is a very important issue. And I am not denying that the COVID-19 has had a toll on mental health. It has definitely catalyzed the problems of mental health. The feeling of isolation, despair, hopelessness, and futility has definitely changed lives and has definitely led to increased cases of mental health. But mental health is a problem that has been pervasive for generations, as I mentioned. It is a problem that we ignore. We give importance to physical health, but no one talks about the importance to be psychologically and cognitively happy. But that's probably more important than one's physical health. I would like to say here that mental health is not usually affected by the global situations. Of course, it is catalyzed by them, but more so often, it is affected by individual life experiences. So a person who has worked hard but cannot secure a seat on a medical college is more likely to take his life and to suffer through depression. A girl who has been sexually molested and dishonored is more likely to take her life and to feel depressed. In fact, statistics have proven that out of the people committing suicide worldwide annually, 60% of them suffer from psychological disorders. Today, 43% of Indians are suffering from psychological disorders. COVID is a temporary adversity. Even if it does seem like it's going to pervade forever, the truth is it won't. The people who were in 1914 to 1918 suffering the First World War thought the same thing. And the people who were in 1939 to 1945 seeing the effects of the Second World War thought the same thing. But it did come to an end. But mental health is a permanent adversity, an adversity that was there, is there, and will be there. To quote Dwayne Johnson, an American actor, he said, When I was suffering through depression, I realized I was not alone. I realized I was not the first to go through depression, and I certainly was not going to be the last to go through depression. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishabh. An eloquent piece of auditory there. And we're all facing a complex problem, and people suffering here at this time tend to get judgmental, according to you. It is experiences, according to you, that causes mental health, severe mental problems. Okay, what is the question? Shivani, can you ask the question, please?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Moderator, for recognizing me. So, Rishabh, great speech. I have one question for you. Mental health has been ignored, you say. You said these issues spike crime tendency, but COVID has multiplied no jobs, no money, no companionship. So how are they more catalyzed until you agree that COVID is the greater disruptor?
Thank you for your question, Shivani. What I want to say is that, like I said, there have been various global crises before this, like the Spanish epidemic, the First World War, and the Second World War. In fact, I think the effects of the Second World War were probably even more dire than the COVID-19 crisis itself, because whenever a country wanted to invade, they would put bombs down and it would destroy the country. But why I feel that the problem of mental health is more important is that it is a problem that exists throughout life. It is the truth that COVID is going to go. Once again, the unemployment rates, which are so high now, will go down. Poverty levels will go down. Government will provide subsidies and the economy will be back on track. Yes, we will have a great loss, perhaps, of the people around us, of the people who we consider near and dear to us. But the truth is that the problems of mental health are going to stay on, are going to live on for generations. And to me, that's way more dire, because that is going to continue suicide rates, and that is also going to continue people for not being happy. And I feel like happiness is the most important aspect of life. And if there is no happiness, even if the global economy is very good, what's the point of living? So for that reason, I feel mental health is a much more pervasive and complex problem than the COVID-19 crisis.
Right. Thank you, Rishabh, and thank you, Shivani. And over to you, Ayushi.
Thank you, ma'am. To follow it up, we have Bates and Gupta from Innovator House, who will speak against the motion.
I hope I'm audible and visible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Today, I, Bates and Gupta, representing Innovator House, stand against the motion of today's debate. Now, to make the best use of all the features that Zoom has to offer, I would have seriously considered changing my background to a nice sandy beach with waves crashing against the shore. But perhaps that wouldn't suit the mode for today's debate. And that begs the question, why are we still sitting in front of our laptops and having a virtual debate? Why are we not standing on a stage and speaking in front of an entire audience? Why? It's not because we were facing any problems related to anxiety or depression. It's not because of our lifestyle. No. It is because of a pandemic. Can we even argue that the pandemic has not affected us all in some way or the other? Can we say no to the tears shed by families for their loved ones as they traverse for miles in search of oxygen cylinders and hospital beds? We cannot, right? Can we neglect the number of businesses that have been forced to shut down in the midst of the pandemic and the employees that have been forced to live out in the rain, in the words of Ratan Tata? No, we cannot. We talk about 6 feet social distancing, but in its true essence, we have been literally distanced from our friends, our family, our loved ones. Yes, COVID has snapped the chains that tie us together. Terminally ill cancer patients have been forced to pause their chemotherapies in order to prevent the risk of running an infection from COVID. Imagine this, some patients do not even have a doctor to hold their hands literally and reassure them that things will get better mentally, physically, or even both. Imagine you had a rough day at school or work. Can you even consider stepping out of the house and speaking to your friend over a nice cup of coffee, alleviating the stress and sharing your issues? No, right? If anything, COVID has added fuel to the fiery problems of mental health and lifestyle itself, the very things my opponents speak of today. My opponents claim that mental health is an issue that has been there for years before COVID and will be there for years after. Absolutely. But that's why friends, family are there to support each other. But we can't even meet now. The UNICEF reports that more than 330 million children have not even been able to step out of their houses in the past 9 months because of the pandemic. We can't go to see our alien relatives because we don't want to transfer an infection to them. We want to care for them, but we can't. The human touch is a very powerful thing, and extending a hand or giving a hug can do wonders. I would have loved to shake your hand today and say good afternoon, but I can't because of this screen. This is a very volatile and uncertain world, but we must stand strong. We must go on. We must tide over the pandemic and create a better future, a safer future, a healthier future for our loved ones, for our friends. We must continue to stand strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Ved, the very animated speech. And COVID has added fuel to fire, according to you. And you gave this an emotional angle when you said that we're all missing the human touch, right? So thank you for that speech. Yutika, your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the recognition. Ved, I would just like to start off by saying your speech was extraordinary and you made some very, very convincing points. Now, my question to you is, you spoke about how for mental health, there are friends and families who help, who support you, but now since it's the pandemic going on and we're in a lockdown, you can't go out and physically meet someone. My question is, what are your thoughts on those families that just disregard mental health, like pre-lockdown, post-lockdown, and during lockdown, and like who just don't care about their child or their partners or their friends' mental state and just think it to be a regular thing? Don't pay much heed to it until it's too late.
Thank you so much for your question, my worthy opponent. Yes, there are families, as you say, who disregard mental health. And I believe that is an issue, true. But the thing is, in order to combat that issue, we as society on a large must spread more awareness regarding mental health. But the fact is that COVID has handicapped us in some ways or the other, that the economy collapsing and all, that's created more issues where we cannot devote our time to pressing issues like mental health, as you say. And that's something that's not great. That's something which the pandemic has done to us, which is terrible. It's shown life, of course, it's disrupted even our efforts to promote mental health. Yes, we have people who are promoting mental health on social media, but we can do much more physically, going out there and spreading awareness. And yes, if the pandemic gets over, if we tide this over, we can do so much to combat that, but only if the pandemic gets over. Thank you once again.
Ma'am, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. Oh, all right. Thank you, Ved, and thank you for the question, Yutika. Ayushi, your chance to speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we have Teesta Ghosh from Philosopher House, who will speak for the motion.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. It's okay to not be okay, said tennis star Naomi Osaka after withdrawing from the 2021 French Open to protect her mental health. A very good day to everyone watching. Today, I, Teesta Ghosh of Philosopher House, stand for the motion, lifestyle and mental health today posed to be a greater disruption than COVID-19. Since the announcement of the nationwide lockdown on 24th March 2020, there has been a monumental shift in our lifestyle. We have all been forced into a sedentary lifestyle, isolated from everyone else, The monotony of our daily lives, doing the same things in the same order, day after day after day, expecting something new to happen. Well, as Albert Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and expecting a different result every time. Humans are social creatures, and this almost complete lack of human interaction and tonelessness of every day has taken a serious mental, physical, and psychological toll on us. Studies have discovered that depression symptoms are 3 times higher during the COVID-19 lockdown. A KFF health tracking poll from July 2020 found that many adults are reporting specific negative impacts on their mental health and well being, such as difficulty sleeping, 36%, or eating, 32%, increase in alcohol consumption and substance abuse, 12%, and worsening chronic conditions, 12%, due to worry and stress over the coronavirus. Young adults have experienced a number of pandemic related consequences, such as closures of schools and universities and loss of income that may contribute to poor mental health. During the pandemic, a larger than average share of young adults aged 18 to 24 report symptoms of anxiety and or depressive disorder, 56%. They are also more likely to report substance abuse, 25%, and suicidal thoughts, 26%. Additionally, the sedentary lifestyle that we have all been forced into has placed physical activity and exercise on the back burner. For instance, studies show that people in the United States have been sitting a lot more than they did before the pandemic. This sedentary lifestyle can lead to heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and other lifestyle diseases. Now, what are lifestyle diseases? They're illnesses associated with the way a person or group of people lead their lives. Aside from the aforementioned examples, they also include diseases associated with smoking, alcoholism, and substance abuse. Worsening mental health has, sadly, opened up a window to many addictions, such as binge eating, binge drinking, or chain smoking as coping mechanisms. This leads to a steady decrease in overall well being, but most importantly, these lifestyle diseases cause comorbidity to the COVID-19 outbreak. People with underlying uncontrolled medical conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, lung, liver, and kidney disease, smokers, and patients taking steroids chronically are at an increased risk of COVID-19 infections. People with comorbidities are also more likely to develop serious illnesses even after recovering from COVID-19. Lifestyle diseases and mental health struggles are nothing new. They have been around for centuries. However, since the onset of the pandemic, these problems have been amplified greatly. A very prominent example of the disruptive effects of the pandemic on our mental health is talented athletes like Naomi Osaka, who has been ranked #1 by the Women's Tennis Association and the first Asian player to hold the top rank in singles, and Simone Biles, one of the most decorated gymnasts of all times with 32 Olympic and World Championship medals to her name, have withdrawn from the French Open and Olympics, respectively. And that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. Living a healthy lifestyle is easier said than done. And with cases of depression, obesity, and other mental and physical ailments rapidly increasing every day, it is safe to say that long after COVID-19 is gone, ill physical and mental health will remain, and it will affect us drastically. I do not think that we should separate mental health, lifestyle, and COVID from each other because one affects the other. But I do believe that mental health issues and lifestyle issues caused by COVID are more dangerous than COVID itself. And with that statement, I rest my case. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Another rhetorical beginning by Tista there stresses the lack of personal interaction to be the root cause of all evil, causing severe lifestyle issues and mental health. Question, and can I ask Swayam Shri? Can you ask the question, Swayam Shri?
Thank you, ma'am, for recognizing me. Tisa, I wanted to ask that, like you yourself mentioned during your speech, that during the pandemic, there has been an increase of like diseases such as obesity, etc. With that, aren't you agreeing that COVID-19 is the greater disruption and has led to a lot of serious problems?
Thank you for your question, my worthy opponent. The question you just asked just propagated my views on the matter. You do not know what is going on in somebody's life. As I did mention that obesity has been increasing because of COVID-19, but you really don't know what's going on. COVID might have just been a catalyst to like speed up the process, right? Also, yeah, COVID-19 is merely a catalyst, and it is unfair to say that it is the pure root cause of all our problems, both mentally and physically. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Swanshri, for the question, and thank you, Tista, for your appropriate answer. Ayushi.
Thank you, ma'am. Our last speaker in this category is Shivani Churgar from Philosopher House, who will speak against the motion.
Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Did you hear about the biggest ever cryptocurrency theft amounting to $613 million that happened 2 days ago? The hackers did it for fun and wanted to expose the vulnerability of the system from the tokens. Never really interested. That's the devil's beginning of a trap. Sounds crazy, but familiar. 2 years ago, some wild biohackers experimented with deadly virus strains and let loose upon Earth. That terror never really meant any, just wanted to expose the vulnerabilities in the human immune system for the purpose of scientific research only. Well, I don't believe a word either of these hackers have in defense. Our topic for the debate is lifestyle and mental health today, a greater disruptor than COVID-19. I, Shivani Churgar, will be speaking against the motion. COVID-19 has completely wrecked our lives, not only as individuals, but community. If you hear someone is to give your support, he will be surrounded by family members caring for him. But if he's a COVID patient, he will suffer in utter isolation. I lost my uncle to COVID a few days ago. We were not allowed to say our final goodbyes. We just saw the funeral flames of cremation from a distance. Even after 3 million deaths from COVID, we humans still haven't achieved grief immunity. COVID has divided our society. Happy as a race. I ask, has put our backs against the walls like this before? Pampers our lifestyle malpractices, traps us within 4 walls. More family and friends being socially distant, overwhelmed by fears and inhibitions. Diabetes, lung cancer, obesity, and old age are like a pile of dried logs, where COVID, single matchstick that turns it into a funeral pyre, a blink. Let me put it simply, bad habits make sick. But here is a monster disease that scoops up, punches them with your pre-existing mutating virus strains to make up a death cocktail. What lifestyle can do far worse. You need prolonged exposure to choke your lungs with soot and become obscenely obese. We can walk more, healthier, and green up our neighborhoods. Lifestyle factors are modifiable, even reverse. COVID, even if controlled, the end result is still the same, unpredictable and uncertain. Let me ask something in his colon to the guy, or can you pass your extra pounds to the cranky neighbor who complains about your loud music? No, you can't. They are non-communicable degenerative outcomes in industrialized areas. COVID can wipe out entire families and communities within a span of days with no bar for age, gender, or wealth. Tobacco, alcohol, obesity, stress, all put together cannot beat the fact that we had to give up our schools, businesses, picnics, festivals, everything we had built up as human race, everything that gives us identity, belongingness, and memories. It has become one long, dark journey with panic and absurd restrictions on being. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani. Shivani has put forth several cogent arguments in favor of her arguments, and it's nothing but an effort to explore human vulnerability to the deadly virus. That's what she says about COVID-19. But let us see, Risha, what question he has for
Yes, Shivani, wonderful speech and my deep condolences for your loss. I wanted to ask that you talked about in the beginning about these various scams that actually made no sense. You talked about these scams that actually made no sense, and so you're saying that in a sense these scams are guided by fear or malice, and these problems essentially come from psychological problems. So are you saying that, are you contradicting yourself in that sense? Because essentially, indirectly, you are kind of proving the opposite stance.
Definitely not. I am saying that is proving my stance that COVID is hacking our lives, and it is due to unconditional and unprobable actions by few people which have caused such great unprecedented damages that is affecting people globally. Like lifestyle and mental health issues affect people individually, but this is at a global scale. So that is what I'm trying to put across. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Thank you, Shivani, for answering that convincingly. Thank you, Rishabh. And with that, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of the category D, and it's now over to the anchor to take over.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Teesta. Thank you, Shivani. As ma'am rightly stated, with this, we come to the end of our last category, category D. It was indeed a good, informative, and positive debate. After all, we the people are not each other's enemy. As it is rightfully said, it is better to debate a question without settling it than to settle a question without debating it.
Now, I would like to call upon Mr. Barry Philip Antonis to share a few words.
Thank you so much. I have quite a few observations to share with you. Whether I'm a moderator for debate or a judge, I take down exhaustive notes. Let me start with the two topics first. They were wonderful motions, absolutely wonderful motions to debate on, balanced, giving both teams a chance. But I would like you to focus on the topic. The first topic was social media creates unrealistic expectations. First of all, may I continue?
Second of the Rishabh. 132.
Okay. First of all, everything on the internet is not social media. First, identify what is social media, and then what is meant by unrealistic expectations. So you must know what you are focusing on and what you are arguing. The same thing with lifestyle and mental health today poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19. Again, the keyword was today. And then greater disruptor. So focus on the way the motion has been framed and learn how to argue your stance. Most of you presented such wonderful arguments. I was thoroughly impressed. Starting with the students of class 6, what a rich vocabulary each student displayed. I was shocked at the words being used. I don't think I used those words when I was in class 6. I'll mention a few. These are class 6 students. Aesthetic, stigma, navigate, detrimental, dopamine. Class 6 students using these words. I was thoroughly impressed. Very well written speeches. Very, very well written speeches. Very well delivered too. Though I have a few areas of concern. Number one, to me, it was very clear there were many participants who were reading up their speeches. Now I follow your line of sight. I can see who's looking into the camera and who is not. I can see whose eyeballs are moving from left to right and back again, looking up, looking down. To me, it was very, very clear. Now, some people tried to be a little smart by opening different tabs on the same screen. There was one student who was looking at a totally different device. A totally different device. That to me was very, very clear. Now you are supposed to memorize your speeches and deliver it, and you can keep a little cheat sheet in your hand with the main points written on it. But you can't read from a prepared text. You can't do that. Then when it comes to rebuttal, your questions have to be very, very short and pointed. They were the length of essays. The questions were so long. And then we can dispense with certain niceties, like thank you for your wonderful speech. Allow the judges to decide whether the speech is wonderful or not. You, the opponents, the participants, shouldn't be judging how good their speeches are. And I heard some superlatives being used to describe their speeches. Keep your questions short and pointed and based on what the participant has uttered. Don't come up with a scenario and then ask, what is your opinion on this? Or what do you think about that? You challenge the speaker on his or her speech, on the points made. Don't present a scenario. Don't present a hypothesis. And then ask the speaker, what is your opinion? What do you have to say? Then, as a teacher of English, I'm a bit of a stickler. Your grammar was good, but pronunciation. There was one word that kept getting under my skin. I heard 3 people mispronounce this word. The word is deteriorate, not deteriorate. Deteriorate. And then one word which is terribly pronounced in our country, I even hear it on news channels. The word is healthy, not healthy. I think most people in India say healthy. That is wrong. It's not healthy. It's healthy. Then learn when the E is pronounced as an I. Perfect, not perfect. Influence, not influence. Then learn which syllables to stress. Photography, not photography. Photography. And there are many, many such words. Economic, economy, economic, economical. Academy, academic. Learn which syllables to stress. Then you will pronounce it correctly. And there were many, many other words that were mispronounced. Too long to get into. Too long. Be focused. When you listen to the news on television, when you listen to English programming, English cinema, listen to the pronunciation. Especially when it comes to British programs. They speak proper English. Listen carefully to how words are pronounced. Sometimes we are not even aware of our mistakes. And I appeal to the teachers to check you each time you make a mistake, so that when you leave school, you are speaking flawless English. You are properly pronouncing every single word. But otherwise, this was a most engaging experience. I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of this inter-house debate competition. I even love the names of your houses. Today I learned the names of the houses for the very first time. Very, very nice house names. You youngsters have shown great promise right from class 6 till class 12. You have a very, very bright future ahead of you. And remember, to be a leader, you have to be a good public speaker. And today you showed me that you have both style and substance. So congratulations to all you youngsters. Congratulations to the teachers. Congratulations to Mr. Bagul and his team. Very, very well done, South City International School. I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your words of encouragement. Now I would like to call upon Mrs. Sophia Ray to share her thoughts on today's debate.
Ma'am, I think you're on mute.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'd first like to thank Sir Bagul for inviting me to this wonderful show that you put up today. You spoke very well. Thank you, sir, once again. I would also now like to tell the class 6s, you did a wonderful job. Sir Barry before me told you the mistakes that you made, and I hope you will rectify those mistakes when you keep on speaking as you go on. But I was amazed, like Sir said, your vocabulary, your level of awareness, the confidence with which each of you spoke. That was just wonderful. That was for class 6. Coming into 7 and 8, the points that you brought out, I was floored. Each speaker that spoke, you were poised. Your vocabulary, like Sir said before this, was excellent. Again, I will refer back to him. Please listen to the mistakes that he pointed out before me, so I'm not repeating that. But go ahead. You are wonderful speakers, right? Then coming to 9 to 12. The point was, like Sir said, the topic, it said lifestyle and mental health today poses to be a greater disruptor than COVID-19, right? The today was the factor which most of you missed out on, right? Some of you, like Sir said, I could see you were reading. You did not even make an effort. One person I saw was turning the pages while he just read through the speech. Please don't do that next time. This is a learning experience. I hope you've learned that you are supposed to learn up your speeches. Have the points with you and go on from there. Some of you were excellent. You know, when you are a judge, it's difficult to enjoy because I have to keep wondering, you know, where to, who was saying what and where I have to give the marks. So what happens is I don't enjoy it when I'm a judge. I would rather just be in the audience to hear you, but well done. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, ma'am, for your inspiring words. Now, I would like to call upon Ms. Gargi Roy Chaudhary to share her views on the topics debated on here today.
Okay, good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks for inviting me as a judge. It gives me immense pleasure to be a part of this debate competition. And I wish to place in record my immense respect for all those who worked hard, planned and trained for today's competition. My previous judges have already pointed out the mistakes that you have made, so I'm not going into that. I feel that the standard was very high and all the participants spoke extremely well. You debated so confidently, yes, and you have put forward your arguments so well. I'm highly impressed. And I wish that you continue honing your debating skills and one day become very good public speakers. Wish you all the best for your future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for all your best wishes. Now, lastly, I would like to call upon our Madam Moderator, Ms. Chitralekha Bhaskar, to share her experiences with all of us.
Thank you, Aishi. And it was wonderful partnering with each and every one of you through the categories. I I don't know what to say. I'm at a loss of words because I think your oratorical skills here, for each and every one of you, commendable. Commendable. The judges, the honorable judges have said it all, so I don't want to repeat it. You all know what it's all about, so that's all right. But it's wonderful. And just to sum up the second topic, I already did sum up the first one. You see, remember that the best way out of a difficult situation is through it. Only then can we protect the mental health and the lifestyle so that we can ensure that our new norm or the new normal is a better one. Right? And on that note, well, many cogent arguments were proffered both for the motion and against the motion. And but like in all debates, I'd like to tell you, it is not the stipulations made, but the questions raised that are important. So think about it on that light. Think about it, my dear boys and girls, from the light, from the point of view of the speakers. Your personal opinion doesn't matter here. But think how the speaker has, encouraged you to think the way you have, and in your, decide for yourselves whether you are for the motion or against. Due to this, we are not able to put the motion to vote because of the online conditions. So think about it and see whether you are going to be for the motion or against the motion. And for the fact, let us face the storm and defy it altogether. Right? Thank you. Congratulations. And special congratulations to the boys and girls who asked questions. Yes, they were a bit too long, but make the questions shorter, but they were very good questions. I like the way you introduce the next speaker. That gives a chance to so many more children to speak out and get over the public speaking fear which many have. And like I think Judge Philip said, public speaking is very important. Communication, very important. That's the future for the leaders. So be a great speaker so you can be a great leader as well. Thank you all. Thank you to all the teachers, all the principal and all the teachers for making this function, this debate such a great success.
Thank you, ma'am. And I totally agree with every word you said.
Now, let's bring in the most awaited, the results. And for that, I would like to request Mrs. Chinmoy Ghosh Chararia, English teacher of our senior secondary school, to declare the results.
Thank you, Divya. And time to announce the winners. Winning is fun, sure, but winning is not the point. Wanting to win is the point. Let's announce the winners of category A first. Category A, class 6. In second position, Anshuman Kedia of 6B. Anshuman Kedia Innovative House. In the first position is Navami Damani of Philosopher House.
Thank you, ma'am.
Category B. In the second position, we have a tie. There is a tie between Nishank De of 7B and Arjun Sarkar of 8A. Nishank De of Creator House, Arjun Sarkar of Achiever House.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, teachers.
And the first position. In the first position is Panya Bagaria of Innovator House. Moving on to category C. In the second position is Yutika Mehrotra of class 10D. Yutika from Creator House.
Thank you, teacher.
And in the first position, Rishita Dev of Innovator House. Rishita Dev of 10B Innovator House. Congratulations, everyone. And moving on to the final category, that's category D. Second position. Rishabh Mitra of 11A. Rishabh Mitra, Innovator House.
Thank you, ma'am.
And in the first position is Swen Shri Mohanty.
Thank you, ma'am.
Swen Shri Mohanty, Achiever House.
Thank you, ma'am.
Swen Shri Mohanty. And now for the most awaited result, that's the best house. The best house with 960 out of 1200 points is Innovator House.
Innovator House.
Please give a round of applause. It's Innovator House.
Innovator House.
And no, we do not have a second best house. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for you have worked so hard. Everyone, we know the kind of effort everyone has put in, so irrespective of all the winners. Everyone has worked very, very hard. Congratulations to everyone. Thank you very much. And now I would like Shonali ma'am to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of South City International School, it is my privilege to propose the vote of thanks. I would like to thank our principal, Mr. John Andrew Bagul, for his encouragement and unrelenting support and guidance. I thank most profoundly our judges, Mr. Barry Philip Antunis, Mrs. Sophia Ray, Mrs. Gargi Roy Chaudhary, and moderator, Mrs. Chitralekha Bhaskar, for gracing the occasion in spite of their busy schedule. I thank Mrs. Swati Nandi Dutt, our secondary head, and Mrs. Rupika Nath, the Dean of Academics, for their constant support and guidance. Students, congratulations for your phenomenal performance. Thank you, parents, for your constant support and cooperation. A special mention to all the teachers of the English department for making this event a success. We thank Ms. Sumaira Khan for all the technical help provided. We are grateful to Mr. Krishanu Mondol, Mr. Michael Datta, and Mr. Edwin Lawrence for tabulating the scores. Thank you, sir. I sincerely thank Mrs. Maua Chakravarti, the head of PA department and the social media department, and her team for their support and media coverage. We are grateful to Mr. Kingshuk Pal for all the services rendered by providing us with the necessary facilities. Thank you, students and everyone, for being an excellent audience and listening patiently. With this, we come to the end of today's event. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, and congratulations to everyone who won.
Thank you, teachers. Thank you, judges.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
all
you,
the
teachers.
students.
Congratulations to everyone.
Congratulations, Linda. Congratulations,